Come, I'll show you the sweetest delight in the garden. As a surprise for Adam.
Really?
Come.
All right.
Here.
But this is the one tree in the garden we cannot touch. This is the forbidden fruit.
Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Surely not.
We may eat the fruit of any tree in the garden, except for the tree in the middle of the garden. God has forbidden us to either touch or eat the fruit of that tree, for if we do, we shall die.
You believe that nonsense? Of course you will not die. God knows that as soon as you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you and Adam will be like gods yourselves.
All of us one day will reach the level of the avatars that we have read about in history, the Buddhas, Jesus,
and the new ones, God.
You ancient serpent, you cast your spell upon this planet with your graven images and your wishes to be worshipped. Witches and warlocks flock like Harry Potter fans, waiting for your new age plan to spread across the land. You got the masses dumped down where you want them, convinced that you don't exist, and now you got them atheists. Some even think they're evolving to a godlike level above and beyond human. These Luciferian lies feed on ego and pride. They come disguised as an angel of light, like the original sin and the first deception. The tree in the garden, don't you see the connection? It's the same old lie that he used back then at the beginning of time, at the fall of man. Have we forgotten the truth within the book of Genesis? Ignorant of the nature of sin, so we dismiss written words of God as an irrelevant myth, but then embrace all these new age thoughts of nonsense?
it's not good or bad. There's no God waiting to punish you because you did one or the other.
There is no God in doing everyone's God. Welcome to the kingdom of heaven, without judgment, without hate, without testing, without anything.
I call my practices that pagan worshiping in fact exists. See through the smoke and the mirrors and the mist. From Atlantis to the American fanatical myths, to the UFO connection with the German SS. Secret society elitists from the east and the west. Illuminati and Masonics, man, it all connects. Satanic worship to the depths we don't want to admit. It's a globalized illusion that we gotta correct. Check the symbols and signs like the all-seeing eye. Read the Bible facts to understand the great design. See the writing on the wall, we're living in end times. And even the elect have now bought into the lie. Real Satanists are dressed up in their suits and ties, eating the fruit like these fools who think they are divine. They aren't evolved, they're just blinded by ego and pride, living a lie that disguised like Jekyll and Hyde. Can you deny that these times were all prophesied? Read Matthew 24:24, you decide.
There's no such thing as good or bad. Judging things are superficial. There are things that I do that I know that involve you. There are other things that do not involve you. But it's not good or bad. There's no God waiting to punish you because you did one or the other.
There is no God.
I'm going to teach you about brain and heart coherence.
I'd like to welcome you to the
These guys are going to be released in the future again. The return of the Nephilim, the fallen angels, the gods themselves with a small g. They are coming back during the apocalypse time.
Cracking hits to rip like the beaks of a griffin, with sharp pointy tips and the grip of a falcon, grasping with grappling talents and worn on medallions of battle in thinking no man. So many masterfully sculpted renditions, artistically marvelous, monstrous visions, descriptions of possibly authentic dragon-like animals, fossilized mandibles gradually formed by the annual downpours and rainbows, exposing mysterious samples. Examine examples like cylinder the seals, revealing the secrets of serpents unveiled by you. With the snaps of a snapdragon sounds serendipitous, just like the epic of Gilgamesh. Several conspicuous mythical beasts can exist, and in fact they could actually be crossbreeds from angels who planted the seeds on indigenous demons hungry to breed.
In the days of Noah, from the book of Enoch, in the paths of giants, revealing a low hybrid.
What we see in this antediluvian world full of giants, if we could go back and observe all the things in the lost book of Enoch and eavesdrop on Nephilim hybrids and fathers who flocked in a pack of 200 deserters. These tyrants who plundered like pirates and lusted for flesh in a cycle of violence. They squandered like pigs in the mud of defiance. Abnormal like Dr. Moreau and his science. Monsters without any use of a latex appliance. A violent alliance of violent Goliaths. Drowned and deluged by the flood into silence. Desirous delinquents, they lost their commission. Now Lucifer's legions, they've turned into demons. Chained and blinded and bound in abyss. Living with locusts deep in the pit.
In the days of Noah, from the book of Enoch, in the paths of giants, revealing a low hybrid.
These lost from our time in our history. Should we be blind to the mystery? Willingly ignorant to the reality. Fallacies formed by fallacious facsimiles. Angelic offspring conspiracies. Possibly aliens visiting. Revealing sinister enemies. Posing as saviors with remedies. History, mental capacities, cavities. Demons are grabbing our faculties. Abducting sanity. Offering new age mentalities. Fraudulent phonies who mimic and imitate. Based in satanic magic. Facilitate UFO sightings, debacle, debauchery, sorcery, portable forgeries, copied demonically forged by a fork-tongued mythology. Genesis 6 talks of Nephilim, vividly mentioning stories of alien babies and women apparently forced to endure hybrid pregnancy.
In the days of Noah, from the book of Enoch, in the paths of giants, revealing a low hybrid.
Because Satan and Lucifer imitate what the true God does, would it not make sense that when these guys fall to earth, maybe they will come in spaceships to take you to the next step of evolution to bring peace on earth? We've got rid of all those Bible thumpers, those right-wing fundamentalist nutcases, and those hate mongers, and we've got rid of them. Now we're here to bring mankind to the next step of evolution.
Earn your degree faster at Purdue University Global. With over 175 online.
Angels left their first estate to cohabitate with women in the days before the flood. And one of the things that they did was they taught mankind enchantments and root cuttings, this drug-related sorcery, the kind of things that you associate or connotate with classical witchcraft.
In every civilization, in every ancient culture, they have practiced divination. In every country and nation, humans have tried to reach the other side through meditation. Rituals and incantations, astral projection, altered state communications, some-induced hallucinations, distort perceptions, ingesting mushrooms, psilocybin, salvia, ayahuasca, DMT, the cutting of roofs, the pharmakia, sorcery and shamanism. Psychics with visions, channeling beings to possess them. They interact through invitation, spirits and demons who are familiar to their victims, entering those who don't resist them through open doorways, connections from other dark dimensions. They fabricate apparitions based on expectation to people open to suggestion. A hocus-pocus fascination, presenting false illuminations with one motivation: to present an imitation, an altered explanation, poisonous intoxication. The serpent's venom's like a weapon that can change and mutate to always keep you guessing. 1/3 of the angels fell, good versus evil, heaven and hell. And now we're caught in the battle between the light and the darkness in places unseen. 1/3 of the angels fell, good versus evil, heaven and hell. And now we're caught in the battle between the light and the darkness in places unseen. Since the beginning, the plan never changes, but they adapt to the beliefs of the ages. In every culture and race, see their traces, erased all their origins, lost in the mazes of time. All these places aligned with the similar tactics, interactions with mass-based malevolent beings, creeping in with enchantments while seeming benevolent, teaching advancements to end with their origins. Evil in nature, this dangerous behavior, enforced human labor, strung by the fingers, the strings of the puppeteer, pulling the leaders, led by the king of fear. Follow procedure, the spread of their greed, feed sneaky creatures deeper and deeper. Wolves among sheep that make signs off of wonders for wicked, adulterous generations who seek for a secret and reap what they sow as their sorcerers conjure elixirs, and spirits who speak through their sages and soothsayers, mystics and wizards and pastors, leaders pour poison down throats of their listeners, twisting through words and their messages, offering counterfeits, magically turning their staffs into serpents, worshipping false gods on purpose. 1/3 of the angels fell, good versus evil, heaven and hell. And now we're caught in the battle between the night and the darkness in places unseen. 1/3 of the angels fell, good versus evil, heaven and hell. And now we're caught in the battle between the light and the darkness in places unseen.
There was an effort made by the dark forces to take the initiative to contact mankind and to introduce them and teach them these techniques.
All right, what is going on, everyone? Steve JMO. It is the 10th of February, 2020, and we have Ark from Destiny's Lab right here. What's going on, brother? How you doing today?
Sorry. What's up, man? I muted my mic here.
Oh no, it's all good.
I might have been messing up the feed.
No, you're good. You sound good now. You sound good.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in.
Absolutely. I'm just going to give the chat a quick rundown real quick. We got Carla Red Pill, Awesome Austin, Good Vibes, Good Flower. What's up? Chrissy Chakul, Awakened Saint. What's going on, brother? Michael Healy, OVC, Destiny Lab. What's up? You got Awesome Austin. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry, bud. Brian Stavely, and the list goes on and on. Larryology, and the chat is rolling. I can't keep up. So what's going on? Let's just do a quick introduction. Who is Ark, and what is Destiny's Lab?
Ark. Okay, well, Ark is my it's my stage name. It's actually short for Arcologic. This was my original kind of name, and it's supposed to be kind of a spin-off of archaeology or archaeological. Favorite subject is archaeology and you know, all the weird things that you find or that scientists find digging up. And I definitely am not a believer in evolution, and a lot of my music is exposing the deceptions of evolution, exposing the deceptions you know, of the New World Order, you know, all the different conspiracy theories, and kind of perspective. You know, there's a lot of people kind of talking about this stuff, but sometimes they don't have a biblical perspective on it. And I believe a biblical perspective is the glue that holds all the pieces of the puzzle together to actually make them form a clear picture. So, but yeah, I'm like I said, I started Destiny Lab back in 2004, although I was rapping all the way back to the early 90s. So, I'm kind of the late to the game as far as the MC in this, but I went through my own journey, my own prodigal son journey type of thing. I was raised in a Christian home, but I got, when I turned 18, I moved to Hollywood, California to work as a special effects man in a very small town, straight into the lion's den, and there was a lot of different people and things that I was exposed to that I wasn't before. And because I was creating aliens and creatures and all that type of things, I got big into studying abduction experiences because I wanted to hear descriptions of what these things look like and then recreate them basically. And I got really deep into that, which got me kind of into kind of the new kind of stuff. And I was, into the Grateful Dead, going to Grateful Dead concerts, and wanted to be abducted. Actually, I wanted to be abducted by aliens because I wanted to see these things firsthand. And but I kept seeing reoccurring themes, and one of the main themes is the subject of the tonight is the original sin. One of the main themes I kept seeing with these alien or the people that claim aliens is they had a similar kind of universal subject matter. And one of them, the main one being in some way, shape, or form, is that you are your own God, that you need to only look within, that all of us are God, that all of us are ascending to be God, that all of us are divine, that all of us are kind of moving upwards and evolving. And that's kind of they're told, you're special. You've been chosen by us. We abducted you to spread this message that we all need to unite under this universal thought of consciousness and Christ consciousness. And they always also want to twist who Jesus Christ was. They'll bring up God, Christ, and they'll say Christ is misinterpreted by the church. He actually just wanted us to all have Christ consciousness and to know that we could be like him just by looking within. And so they sort of twist the whole gospel message to be a kind of a new age, inverted, Gnostic, original sin version of Christianity, which is basically Luciferianism, because that's what Luciferians believe. If you look up what do Luciferians believe, they will tell you straight up, they don't believe in God or the devil. They believe that they are their own gods. And that's straight up what they believe. And so all this stuff is basically just repackaged Luciferianism, whether you want to call it that or not. So, but long short, I just basically felt compelled through my own journey to present this in a unique way. And I used to rap when I was younger, never necessarily wanted to do that for a living, but because I enjoy being kind of behind the scenes and not necessarily somebody that wants to be in the spotlight or do live performances and all that type of stuff. But I really felt convicted in a way because of my own journey and because of my own falling short in that prodigal journey to then, I knew other people were deceived by these things and they weren't listening to, diving deep into this stuff. And music is a really good way to kind of be able and get them to investigate this stuff on their own. But yeah, that's kind of
absolutely cool. Yeah, absolutely. And may I say, your music, bro, is top notch. Like I'm kind of upset that they're not playing stuff like that on the radio, because all they do with this new, like, not even new music, this goes back to old school rock and roll. It's all just a bunch of Luciferian occultism they throw right up in there, right in your faces, especially with the modern day rap music, because I'm only 24. And the stuff that I hear and that I'm exposed to via, Facebook and all these people sharing songs and videos and stuff like that of rappers and whatnot, they're all 100% just like for the occult, for Lucifer. One dude's name is literally Little Uzi Vert, and at most of his concerts, dude, he literally has the crowd chant his name as fast as they can. And if you say that, I'm not going to say it, but people in the chat, say that as fast as you can, and then say a prayer because you just said, the man's name, Lil Uzi Vert. Say that as fast as you can, and yeah, dude, it's right, and they do it just like that. And recently, some rapper just passed away. He was like 22 or 20. I don't really keep up with it, but a couple of his songs, he literally says, like quote unquote, I'm talking with fallen angels. Like that's something
Yeah.
that flows right over everyone's head that are my age, because they're just like, oh dude, that's a sick line. And I'm like, whoa, we gotta take that a couple of steps back. I'm like, do you even know what a fallen angel is? Do you even know what a regular angel is? Do you even know who God is? Do you know who Lucifer,
Yeah.
Satan is? You can't just go from A to Z just like that. And these people, they'll start singing it, start chanting it. It's just one big channeling session, and it's absolutely ridiculous in my opinion that someone like me, like I said, I'm 24. I've been, I used to listen to music like that all the time, and I look back on it now, and I'm just like, I'm very thankful that I have the ears to hear now and the eyes to see, but there's a little part of me that's like, wow, I just can't believe you were falling for all that stuff. And like you said, you went to Hollywood, and I bet you were exposed to a bunch of different types of energies and vibes. And you said you got a little agey on it, and that's all Hollywood is. It's all in the name there, Hollywood. I'm sure you're aware that Hollywood is the wood from a holly tree that witches and warlocks and sorcerers used to carve down and get their wand magic from that tree.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, man. It's all integrated. The occult is what drives the occult, and also pedophilia is what drives Hollywood. I mean, that's what these people are all about. And when I went down there, I went to a makeup school, and I can't remember. I was kind of really naive, and they brought up Rock Hudson. My makeup teacher said something like, I personally knew Rock Hudson, and I don't know how he got AIDS. And I was just like, really? I mean, I thought he was like joking. He was pretty crazy tall, and he's just like, class, and put his arms around my shoulder and be like, if you're going to work in this industry, you better realize that homosexuals run this industry. So he basically tried to scare the heck out of me and saying, you should get out type of thing, very militant about it. And so it was creepy. I was only there for about 3 years. I had 2 cars stolen. I had my apartment broken into. I was living in an apartment for $1,000 a month. It was just like a studio apartment. It was, there were some fun aspect of working on movies and all that. I mean, it was meant to be. I went through this for a reason. And as a matter of fact, this is very interesting. The first movie I worked on was called The Lawnmower Man. And I don't know if you've ever seen The Lawnmower Man, but the entire storyline of Stephen King novel remade into a movie is about a scientist who creates a technology that is based in a virtual reality goggles, and he gets his lawnmower man, who is a mentally challenged guy, and he brings him into his basement. He says, "Hey, you want to play these games?" And he uses this mentally challenged guy to basically use this technology to make him smarter. And when he puts these glasses on, he starts flashing all these alchemical occult symbols in front of the guy's eyes, and it totally shows it in the movie. You can watch the movie, and these symbols and everything literally start awakening this guy, and he becomes smarter than the scientists. And he in the end, he's like, "I am God. I am a god," And so it's all the original sin repackaged. And like I said, that was kind of right when I was going through these things. So it's amazing to look back and see how God kind of like what he put me through, and kind of in preparation to do what I'm doing today. So it's really interesting.
No, absolutely. I've been through I could maybe a similar type of experience, I guess. Have you ever had any like paranormal type shit happen to you?
A little bit, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you can kind of resonate with this. Well, like I said, I'm only 24, and being like a teenager just 5-10 years ago, there's a lot of stuff on TV, and obviously me being a teenager, I wasn't aware that the television is pretty much just a weapon of mind control. And a lot of TV programs, a lot of stations, they have paranormal researching or ghost hunting type shows. You know what I'm saying? So that
Sure.
always pretty much like sparked my interest. And once I turned like 18 or 19, I'm an adult pretty much, and I bought a Ouija board, bought a couple cameras, and started doing some paranormal research. And pretty much I was still making YouTube videos, and I was still doing that, but I kind of walked away from YouTube because I was doing pretty much just flat Earth and exposing a couple other things here and there. But I don't believe my real truth journey started until, the saying, you get the hell scared out of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
you open up that doorway, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, dude. Like literally, like I went ghost hunting to this crazy haunted tunnel in up in Mass, literally some forbidden land from the Mohawk Indians, and whatever evil that I was looking for, I scared that shit right out of me, because the next day I ended up in a
You're
church.
kind of breaking up on my.
I'm breaking up.
Breaking up on my end, son. Yeah, I couldn't hear that last sentence. I don't know if the chat room is breaking up, but on my end it is.
How does this sound? Does this sound better? Does that sound better at all? Am I just not talking?
It's still all robotic. I'm not hearing you.
Huh, that's interesting, because that's how you were sounding before. Says, all right, everyone in the chat, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, and if there's an echo, give me a thumbs down or something.
It's like when you start talking fast, it goes out. When you're talking slow, I can understand you, but then when you talk fast, it totally just can't keep up or something.
That's interesting. Everyone in the chat says they can hear both of us well. Maybe, I don't know what that is.
Okay, it must be my end then. It must just be me. So go ahead. I just want to make sure I can follow you.
Maybe turn your camera off. Maybe turn your because that's happened to me plenty of times. I'll be on a live stream with someone and the camera somehow slows down the audio. But does that sound any better now that the camera's off? Or
yeah, actually it does. I didn't even notice you don't even have your camera on. Here I had my stupid camera, so
it's all good. I keep it off, just distraction for me. Like I said, I'm only 24, so I got that goldfish fucking mentality. I'm over here, I'm looking over there, so there's one less thing for me to look at. But yeah, all right. So yeah, what I was basically saying was like you were saying, you had to go through these experiences in Hollywood and witness some of these occult things to, God put you there to see that. So in the future, you can, you'll be able to understand it even better. And like I said, I was 19 around that age, and, I bought a Ouija board, bought a couple cameras, got some paranormal equipment. And for a little while I was going here and there, exploring some other places. Nothing, there weren't any real hauntings until I went to this one place, like I was talking about, in up in North Adams, Mass. Pretty much, it's a train tunnel. Where trains actively go in and out of the tunnel, but if you read the legends behind it, there's something very dark up in there, and I can attest to that. And like I was saying, I went there a couple times, and one time we went there, bad things happen. On a future stream, I actually have video of everything that happened. I'm going to just break it down and show people how you should not be dabbling with demons, because they're going to end up biting you in the ass pretty much. And that's essentially what happened to me. Yeah. I went home that night and I look at my arm after I shower. My arm's burning. I look down. I have 3 scratches right down my arm. And it's like May maybe or April. So I'm still wearing a hoodie, and we're inside the earth, pretty much inside of a tunnel that goes through a mountain. So it's cold in there. So no reason for me to have any part of my skin exposed. You know what I'm saying? So I found out so, something fucking scratched me. We went back the next day. I was worked up about that. I was like, yeah, all right. Because nothing happened all night. There wasn't really too much activity, but then I come home with scratches on me. So I had a feeling that something wanted to make itself known. We went the next night. Crap really hit the fan. I ended up in a church the next morning praying for all my sins and, fucking crying, dude. It was crazy. One of the most humbling experience I've ever had. And ever since then, I probably went ghost hunting once. And that was like a month after that. So that was like 3 years ago. Since then, I've read the book of Enoch cover to cover. I've covered most of the Bible since then, and I've been, just on the truth journey ever since, and I haven't looked back, because that's how people get hurt. And you look at people like Gordy Rose, who's literally said he's been talking with entities that are higher and more powerful than demons, and look at us like we're ants. And then he comes on camera 2 years later, just a couple months ago, and he's looked like he's aged, dude, like 10, 15 years. He has gray hair, wrinkles all over his skin. And I'm like, that's what happens, dude. You lose your mind, you lose your soul. And you look into that dude's eyes, and I see nothing but darkness, just like Nancy Pelosi and all these other motherfuckers that are clearly just 100% occult Satan worshipers, whether they know it or not. I assume that the people who are, looking like they're trying to run the show, like at least publicly, I'm assuming that they're in on it to that level. But there's a lot of
some of them are definitely deep into it, where other people just kind of accept it,
Yeah, or they just don't see it, because there's a lot of people who don't even know the difference between right and wrong when it comes down to good versus evil, a sin versus an act of God. Some people don't even know they're sinning half the time. Like if I went down, I'm young. If I went to the bar, which I haven't been to in like 3 or 4 years, and told someone that what they're doing right now is an act against God, and so along with fornication and all this other stuff, they look at me like I was crazy, because in their eyes I'm 100% wrong, because that's all they know. And it leads me to believe,
exactly.
It leads me to the question, like, do those people, are they going to get a second chance of salvation? Because I'm under the impression they've never even been introduced to the idea of right versus wrong, good versus evil. And they're just going down the wrong path, not even knowing that there's a second path for them to choose to save their souls. You know what I'm saying there? So what do you think they have a chance?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is what's happening. I think you're kind of talking about it earlier, how they're not even hiding it anymore. It's just kind of right out in the open. And they actually have a term for this within the occult. They call it the externalization of the hierarchy. And this is actually a planned method that they're planned, back in even 15 years ago, everything was secret, all the secret societies, all their rituals, all this stuff was hidden, and they wanted to guard these secret. Now it's all about externalizing this stuff. And so that's why it's everywhere on the media. That's whether it's on all these logos. That's why you see all these occult symbols on kids' T-shirts. That's why you go down a kid's book aisle. Every book is on witchcraft, witches, warlocks, everything having to do with the occult, magic, and ritual. I mean, it's just a manifestation of the demonic right in front of our eyes. And they're externalizing these things to the point where it dumbs people down to just accept it. But those people who have eyes to see and ears to hear, they recognize, they say, it gets to the point where it's also God's grace. It's God's grace allowing this stuff to be so obvious, don't see it and aren't willing to admit it, that this stuff is obviously good versus evil happening right in front of our eyes, and this is satanic and this is demonic in origin, then you're without excuse. Because to this point today, you would have to be, completely blind to not see what's going on. I mean, if you're watching a Super Bowl halftime show today compared to 10, 15 years ago, you'd just be like, what in the world is this? Is this, have I gone to another planet? I mean, it's like, it's unbelievable. It's like the Hunger Games. We're going to be in the Hunger Games in another 10 years. And that's why I think we know we're living toward the end times. We know, at least, we don't know the day and time exactly, but we can recognize the season. And we're in the season because this stuff is being externalized such to the point that, like I said, it's kind of God's grace. It's God saying, hey, which side do you choose? Whom do you serve? It's the good versus evil. It's obvious, black versus white. And it's up to you to be, just have the eyes to see and admit it. And I think there's so many people that know it deep down, but they think, oh, I'm going to have to change, or I'm, you know, I don't want to have to go to church. You know, all these things that they think. But the truth is God accepts you right where you're at, and he'll change you after the fact. Once you get into his word, once you start growing, I mean, he doesn't expect people to be perfect overnight. You're like, you know, it's like a kid. It's like a parent with a kid, you know, you learn as you grow. And that's part of, you know, becoming a believer. You know, you get into the word, start digging into it, and pretty soon your wants and your desires start changing, and you literally, the blinders come off, and you start seeing the reality of what's going on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah, I think God's giving his grace right now by allowing these things to be externalized, but it's also the enemy, the ones that's doing it. But God's the one in control. So ultimately he's in control.
No, absolutely. It's like God's master plan of exposing everything is letting these guys, you know, do these blatant halftime, you know, Super Bowl rituals. And I'm not one to really watch sports anymore, but you know, I kind of just had to tune in and check out how bad they were going to put it, because last year, 2 years ago at the Oscars or whatever it was, they literally did a Freemasonic ritual with the Freemasonic floors. They had the Ark of Baal there, Jakeem Boaz. So I just wanted to see how blatant they were going to do it. And the second they brought these, I don't know, 5-year-olds out in cages of light, I got up.
Yeah.
I told everyone, if you watch this, you consent child pedophilia, and I left the room, and everyone just looked at me like I was the fucked up one, you know. And I don't mean to swear, but it is what it is. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
yeah,
They put
no
this
worries.
stuff on TV, and people eat it up for what it is. And like we were talking about, they got the kids, dude, so
Yeah.
early and so deep. Like even kids my age, they listen to Blink 182. You look at most of their album cover, and it's a circle with a star inside of it. So what is that really
Yeah.
portraying? It's absolutely ridiculous. And then how many kids, you know, they drink the Monster Energy drink, Unleash the Beast in Hebrew? What's that? 333, or is it 666? Regardless, those are both highly occult numbers, and it's just absolutely ridiculous that every kid is either drinking that drink or walking around with the hat or got the T-shirt on or got the logo on their dirt bike or whatever the hell it is. You know, they got these kids all the way down. Rockstar Energy drink, they got a star on there. For what we know, stars don't look like that. Stars are not 5-pointed things. Stars are, to me, some frequency, spiritual, conscious-based beings in the skies that I don't know what the stars are, man. The stars are absolutely memorizing to me. And have you been noticing? I don't know how much you guys or you notice the stars and look at the sky and stuff like that, but have you been noticing the stars blinking as of late? I know that sounds crazy and ridiculous, but from what I can tell, there's a lot of stars that are moving erratically, that are just lighting up orange, and then they're green and blue and white, and they're just going all over the place. Have you noticed anything like that in the last couple of years?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I've seen, but I haven't been paying attention lately to see the, you know, compare it to how it used to be or anything. No, I haven't seen it myself, but yeah, I mean, these stars are, I mean, definitely, I mean, the symbols they use that are stars are just so blatant, and there's meaning all behind that. That's how these elite that are deep into the cult, that's their language is symbols. So they speak to each other through these symbols by inserting it into their logos or their commercials or in their movies. And then it's just sort of a wink nod of like, oh, okay, these guys are in, they, you know, they're cool. So and these people know what these symbols mean, you know, so they speak to each other in this way to kind of like a secret handshake type of thing. And, but like I said, it's being externalized now to the point where it's just laughable, but it's still, you know, disgusting to see because so many people are completely still blinded by it and have no clue the power behind it. They just think it's just all fun and games. And I mean, that's what the whole transsexual thing has nothing to do as much about sexuality as it does about pedophilia and also transitioning people to anything, creating hybrids. That's what it's really about. It's about the days of Noah and what they were doing back before the flood, when the fallen angels started intermingling their seed with mankind to pollute the bloodline. That's what's going to be happening in the end times in one shape or form. and it may not be exactly the same, and may not be giants, and maybe there is, I don't know, but there's going to be some sort of form, and I believe this is what the mark of the beast will be, is some sort of intermingling human flesh with the fallen angels or with the demonic, and making a person non-human, and that will be, there'll be some sort of incentive to do that. I don't think it's going to be forced upon people. It's going to be incentive that you'll be, upload your consciousness, or you can live forever, or some sort of transhuman twist to it.
Absolutely.
But I think that's what was going to happen in the end times.
That's not bad. Yeah, my little twist on that, the whole mark of the beast system, or the what it's going to be. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be like a chip or a vaccine or whatever it could be, but I think it's going to have to do with the 5G grid and all of these fake what do they call them? The pandemics with the the coronavirus, Zika, all this other stuff. I think that they're releasing all of this stuff into the media to normalize us with pandemics, so that when they get the 5G up everywhere, 5G from their words, not mine, is literally going to be like walking or living inside of a airport control scanner at all times. That's their words, not mine. That doesn't seem too helpful or good for humans in cellular molecular activity. So I think that when this 5G grid's up, people are going to start getting sick. There are going to be more things of cancer and whatnot, but I don't think they're going to sell it as that. I think they're going to wrap it up like, hey, we told you this coronavirus is going to get out of control. Now you see all these people are dying. Now here's the chip or the shot or the spark or whatever it's going to be, and this is going to rejuvenate your cells and fight this quote unquote virus, which is reality, just the 5G radiation all around you at all times. And they're going to try to put it off that way, that your cells can rejuvenate and fight the virus, and essentially they'll take updates and strive to be like gods, just like the original sin, have the knowledge of the gods, live forever, essentially. And they could pass it off like that, or they could just pass it off with the skin suits, just upload your consciousness to this robot and it's all good. They have multiple angles and avenues of which they can go right now, which I don't like that, because it keeps us really in the dark. But I feel like they're going to twist in the pandemics with the 5G, and then they're going to usher in some new sort of vaccine, or not an RFID chip, but maybe like a cell rejuvenating chip after a couple 100,000 people die. I'm not saying that I want people to die, but I think it might happen. There's so many people in history that have Clinton, H.W. Bush, even the Georgia Guidestones say they gotta take 500 million is what they want, or 5 million for the human population.
Kill like 90% of people, pretty much. They got to kill 90% of people off to get it to where they want it. So
right. And I have a feeling that
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I got a really strong feeling that a good percent of those 90% are going to be people like you, me, Richie, Nicholson, Brian, all these people. The obviously we're not the ones to go to church and conform to a religion, but we know that someone created us, and I'm 100% under the impression that he sent his son down to die for our sins then, now, and forever. So a lot of people, it's just so crazy that so many people you say that and they're like, yeah, bro, you're wrong. There's no proof. I'm like, well, I got like a 400-page Bible right next to me as we speak that has a lot of proof in there, actually.
Yeah. Investigate it for yourself. Actually try it. And, those people are, I went to church when I was a kid, or I was Catholic. I have all these excuses. But compare it to what prophecy, really dig deep and analyze it, and use your brain for a second. You'll come to the conclusion, and use your heart and soul as well. Pray out to God. Hey, if you're real, and if Jesus is real, some way, have him show himself to me, or manifest himself in a way that makes sense to me, not, appearing to me or anything like that, but just in a way that makes sense to me, that I'll recognize the truth of this, that it'll vibe, that I get it, and And that's different with different people, but it's absolutely true. And it's the thing that everybody's searching for. And I think you're absolutely right as far as these viruses and all these things. I think it's not really one thing. It's all this stuff. Things, the demands.
Hey, Ark, you're starting to splotch out a little bit.
Okay, I'll slow down a little bit.
That's a lot better.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the demonic realm knows that they have to hit different people with different deceptions. So, like the alien deception is probably going to be part of it. The whole dumbing people down to accept, some sort of solution or some sort of virus protection, because they're probably going to put out a virus that they already have the virus protection for, but then they just make everybody get it, create the problem so they can sell you the solution. So the whole Hegelian dialectic, like they always have, but it's going to be a manifestation of all these different things, hitting people from different angles and deceiving different people in different ways. There's the elderly people that don't know anything about transhumanism. There's, the younger generation that they're, all about video games, all this stuff. So all these things are going to be part of the twist. And that's why we see it so integrated throughout our society.
Absolutely.
It's because they want to get as many people as they can and deceive as many people as they can. But we recognize who they are.
Absolutely. And on the flip side of that coin, like you said, the demonic realm, Lucifer and all his minions, like you said, they have many different ways of deception that may appease and come to the eyes of different people in different ways. Like they might hold on to money, or they might hold on to the whole heliocentric, or they might hold on to this, that, the other thing. And that's their way of just drowning them in their way of deception. But like I said, on the flip side of that coin, God and Christ and the Holy Spirit can work their ways upon us individually, because we're all individuals, and he's not going to make himself known to me and you maybe in the same way, because we're different on like a mental process type deal. Because, well, obviously he probably wouldn't make himself known similar to you and me, because we're how old are you? Like 45, 50?
49.
I'm right in between, not bad. So yeah, I'm 25 in 3 days, or in 5 days. So we're pretty much a quarter century apart from each other. So it's like what I'm basically getting at is he's going to present himself in a way that I'd understand, and then in a way that you would understand individually. But like you said, on the flip side of that coin, Lucifer and all his deities and beings basically can do all of that, but in a flip, because they work on that's how they work on everything. It's ridiculous. Everything that God has created, has done, they're going to give us their own little knockoff version of it, whether it's chemtrails, whether it's a heliocentric model. And one thing for the heliocentric model, for people who lean towards that, the only reason I lean, or not the only reason, but one of the big reasons I lean away from that is just the word in there, heliocentric. Helios is one of the ancient Greek gods of the underworld, a horn god. And if you look at a picture of him, look at a picture of Apollo, and then look at a picture of the Statue of Liberty, and then you'll understand how they are all one and the same. It's rather scary, and it's rather interesting to look at all that, because it's one fallen entity they're all worshiping, but it's a different name for him. You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely crazy. And like I was saying before, they have their own knockoff versions of everything. And something I talk a lot about on this show is the solar simulator. Are you familiar with that topic at all?
No, I'm not.
No,
I don't think so. Solar simulator?
Yes.
No,
I'll present it like this. It's the idea that they have their own version of the sun up in the atmosphere at all times to basically put in front of the natural sun so we don't get the actual benefits of, natural sunlight and
No,
whatnot.
I have heard this.
Yeah, and multiple times I believe I've caught in it plenty of times over here in Massachusetts. I think personally that great solar eclipse in 2017 was setting up the simulators across the United States, because I don't know about you, but I don't recall a eclipse in history moving from the west coast to the east coast. Nothing in the celestial sky moves west to east. Even the stars move east to west. The clouds, most of the clouds move. Most of the clouds move west to east because most of the storm fronts start in the Pacific Ocean and make their way over. But the sun east to west, the moon east to west, and then we have this object in the sky in 2017 traversing across the United States west to east. And the funny part about it was they had NASA jets following the eclipse the entire way in the blackout zone. I just thought that was rather odd, rather peculiar. Another peculiar thing about that is the blackout zone was only 70 miles wide. If the moon is 230 however thousand miles away and the sun's 93 million miles away, but they're just as far away and they're the same exact whatever in the sky, don't you think we'd have a little bit bigger of an area than 70 miles for a blackout window? Wouldn't it be like, 40,000, like the circumference of the moon, perhaps? Because that's supposed to be going in front of the sun. So in my opinion, I think the entire northern hemisphere should have been blackout, not just a 70-mile wide strip from west to east across America. There's a lot of fishy things about that eclipse. In my opinion.
That's kind of outside my wheelhouse. I'd just be throwing out guesses if I said anything. So I really don't know much about all that, but I think it's super interesting to study for sure. The whole eclipse thing is fascinating. I mean, throughout time, obviously eclipses have been something that is been a super powerful influence on different cultures. The Mayan and the Aztecs had amazing ability to predict eclipses that they used to actually control their masses. I mean, they would use it knowingly that a eclipse was going to come and go, but their people didn't know that. And so they would, use this as I guess a way to control the masses and say, you either do this or the sun will never come back. And that's why people would willingly give themselves as sacrifices, or they would sacrifice hundreds and hundreds of people in one day just to appease the gods, supposedly. But there's definitely some obvious demonic stuff associated to all that. But like you said, it's all counterfeit of God's original creation. So the Bible says he put the whatever the stars and sun and moon and whatever they are, he says he put those in the sky for signs and symbols of the seasons, so they're actually there to be able to recognize certain seasons or certain future events possibly, or recognize repeated things happening through history. So there is something to astronomy, and even astrology is a mimic of the original and a counterfeit of the original Hebrew version of the zodiac. So there is some truth to this, but it's all been inverted. It's all been twisted and made something different, and that's what Satan's a master of. Satan doesn't create anything new. He just takes God's created things and inverts them and makes them the opposite, twists them. And so that's really something that Christians need to realize and non-Christians need to realize. It's not this Satan's coming to you with the pitchfork and horns all the time. He's going to be an angel of light, providing miracles, providing signs and wonders and healings and all these positive things. All these things. How could this be the devil? It's positive. Well, read what the Bible says. It says he comes as an angel of light. Satan was the most beautiful angel in heaven. That's how he deceived a third of the angels to fall with him. I said that before. I said, if Satan could deceive a third of the angels in heaven in the presence of God, how much easier could he deceive us, mankind, in our fallen state? So, we're easily deceived, and the Satan and his minions have been at it for thousands and thousands of years. So they're very, very good at it. And they've changed their disguises and their costumes throughout time to fit the belief system of whatever you may be believing. And that's why things like aliens and evolution and other planets and all this far off stuff is so popular now, because that fits the paradigm of today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, they just repackage everything for whatever the highlight is of the time. So
yep.
Something I wanted to get into, which we just kind of talked about a little bit. You said that Lucifer deceived 33% of the angels and they fell, correct? You just said that.
And there's more angels that fell after that as well, the Bible says.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And real quick, and that's what I was trying to allude to when I was talking about the blinking stars in the sky, because I personally think that the stars in the sky are the consciousness or the something of angelic beings, and a lot of them are staying true to just their white, beautiful light, whatever you want to call it. You look at these stars through a P900 and they're all doing different things, obviously, but some of them are more angelic and more positive looking than the other ones. Like I was saying, they're blinking, they're 30 different colors per second, they're going left, they're right, they can't even stay still or focused. And I think that these blinking stars are most likely the consciousness of the fallen entities that fell down on Mount Hermon in the days of Jared, and then afterwards, as you said. But something I wanted to,
very possible.
Yeah. And something I wanted to ask. Yeah, absolutely. And something, where is it over here? I just got a notebook. Yeah, okay. So do you think that Lucifer fell with the fallen angels in the day of Jared, or do you think it's possible that he fell in a time prior? Because if you do read the Bible, and in the first 5 lines, it kind of gives you a little curveball, because it says God created the heavens and the earth, and then darkness and void was upon the earth. So do you think that it's possible that Lucifer made a stand against God shortly after the creation, and then deceived 33% of the angels and appointed Azazel as head of the Watchers as a scapegoat, so that he would fall ultimately and Lucifer wouldn't be, I wouldn't say damned, like as damned, but he would kind of have the finger pointing at the other guy, because he made the idea, because he possibly deceived him originally, and he convinced, the original 12, and then it turned into 200, and then in total 33%. So do you think he was part of the original?
Where do you get all that information from?
What information?
Those details of the Azazel and all. Is that from the Book of Enoch, or where are you pulling that information from?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, I guess that's possible. A lot of the people believe Book of Enoch was originally canon, and in still like the Ethiopian Bible and some Bibles, it still is part of Scripture. So I think it's super fascinating to study that stuff. I'm not studied up enough to necessarily say yes, this is one way or another. I've always believed that it was a 6-day literal creation, and that everything up to that point was created as good, but it's possible that I haven't studied that enough, or don't fully understand all the intricacies of it, because there definitely are a lot of pieces of the puzzle missing, that where you got to either kind of fill in the gap with Scripture, or sort of just through extra biblical books try to figure out what's going on there. But I'm open to the interpretation and open to those possibilities. I know there's like the gap theory, and there's different ideas like that. I think we're living in a young Earth, 6,000 to 10,000 years old.
Absolutely.
Myself, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of things where I just don't know still. So I still have lots of questions, and I'm a very very skeptical person. I mean, even though people would assume, because I talk about all these conspiracies that I'm not. Oh, you believe all these conspiracies, whatever. It's like, no, actually, I really investigate all the stuff thoroughly and try to really vet it out before I really ascribe to or believing in one thing or another. So there's a lot of things out there that I still I don't know, like the shape of the earth. I just don't know. It definitely could be flat. It definitely could be, square. It could be a lot. I've never seen it. So how am I supposed to know that? I mean, everything's going to be a guess on my end. So I could guess. And that's what I think most people are kind of just doing is guessing at this point. But it could just be that the earth's much bigger, or, I don't know. So there's lots of possibilities. I got lots of questions in that area still and just still searching, You can only have so much time in the day to investigate and still make music at the same time. So
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is with that, I can definitely I can relate to something like that because I go live probably good 4 days a week. And like I said, I got that, awesome little 15-hour week job where you really can't just not do that because I kind of need a little bit of money to get by and payments, bills, shit like that. So it's unfortunate that we all have to, do our part in the system, but hopefully the older, when I, get a little older and maybe get some more money saved up, I can have some easier job where I can just, do something like this all day because this is a lot better than cooking for a bunch of a-holes, but it is what it is.
There you go. My dad, I remember when I was young, my dad said, when I first started working, he says, you know what, the sooner you realize that most of your life is getting up, going to work, coming home, going to bed, getting up, going to work, coming home, going to bed. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll be happier. And I was just like, oh no, that's what life's about. So yeah, I've been self-employed pretty much all my life since then. So I don't like working for the man, but I have, everybody has to do that thing. Here's something that I haven't talked about a lot that I'll blow the lid off. I've worked for many years as an artificial inseminator of cattle. If you
what
can
is
imagine
that?
what that is.
What does that even mean?
You know what a cow puncher is? Have you ever heard of a cow puncher?
Not exactly.
Okay, so artificial insemination of cattle is where you put a glove that goes up to your shoulder. You go in through the rectum of the heifer, the female cow, and then you have a straw that's about 2.5 feet long with an injectable straw of semen from a collected bull, and then you insert the semen into the right at the beginning of or through the cervix at the beginning of the two fallopian tubes, and you impregnate the animal. So that's what my dad has done for a living for over 50 years, and I've helped him for many years here and there do that, and I still seasonally do. So you got to do what you got to do.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I could do something like that, but it's just maybe because I'm just 24 and live in a city. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah. Well, I grew up around it, so it's a little bit easier for me. But yeah, it's definitely, you see something like that for the first time if you're from a city or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people do this. Somebody's got to do it. Make all those burgers out there.
Hey, I gotta sell them, so someone's got to do it. Feel that, but let's talk about like possible Nephilim creatures that made it through the flood. Like, what are your thoughts on quote unquote mythical creatures such as Loch Ness, giant squids, Chupacabra, Mothman, Jersey Devil, Bigfoot? Where do you stand on stuff like that? And we can take those one at a time if you want, or you can just group them all into one, because that's usually what I do.
Yeah. Have you heard my new song, Paranormal Species?
Yeah, dude, that shit's tight. That's
okay.
tight.
So yeah, that's from my new album that has not been released yet, but you can watch the song and video if you look Paranormal Species by Destiny Lab. It's basically all about this. So yeah, I do believe that many of these creatures, Mothman, Chupacabra, Jersey Devil, Loch Ness Monster, even Bigfoot, Sasquatch, all these different things. If you read the stories of all these things, a lot of them parallel to the whole alien, demonic, fallen angel thing. And if you study the fallen angels and the people that get so-called abducted, then you really begin to see the parallels where people smell sulfur, they'll hear the buzzing and ringing in their ears, where there's being missing time, where the creatures will tell things like the original sin, these same type of storylines that go with it. There's always some sort of occult overtone that goes along with it. And Aleister Crowley, he had his residence actually set up on the edge of the Loch Ness and would do rituals to the Nessie. The Loch Ness Monster is back in, I don't know when it was, but when he was alive, and did all kinds of sex rituals and sick, perverted things there.
Oh yeah, he literally conjured up a quote unquote, you can call it a gray alien. I think it's just a Nephilim demon. But yeah, that guy, he's all over the board. He has ties with obviously like Freemasonry, but he's got ties with the Vatican, which is kind of strange. You wouldn't think that a man who's conjuring up Nephilim gray aliens would have a connection with the Vatican. And then he also has connections with Nazi Germany. And we all know about Nazi Germany and their connections with extra dimensional beings, I guess we could call them, through the Vril Society, Vril Aryans, and the hunt for all that. And yeah, that's something that I wanted to get in with you a little bit, because I saw a couple of comments in a live stream I was doing. I think it was just a couple of days ago, when I was talking about all the Hollow Earth stuff. And I just recently rewatched the Hollow Earth Chronicles, and I did get around to seeing that Higher Entities film by the Fall Brothers, and that's some stuff that I feel like everyone under the sun should definitely check that out. Like whether it costs $10 or not, who really cares? Those two videos individually have more information than any media outlet on the face of the earth right now. That's my opinion, and I think that those two films are I'd say at least 98% factual, because there's a couple bits here where someone's alluding to sim theory and something about the globe and outer space. And just like everything, I take the meat and you spit the bones out. That's all you can really do, because you're not going to find one truther, or anyone in the world, doesn't have to be a truther, that's going to agree with everything that you agree or see eye to eye with you. So you got to take what resonates, take what feels right inside of you, use that intuition we were talking about before, that discernment, and don't form your own conclusions, but form a conclusion that's based upon facts, rather than making these leaps of faith that these high priests of science love to do with gravity and in the core of the earth and all this other nonsensical stuff. Because the deepest hole ever drilled allegedly is like 8.2 miles in Russia, and the core is like supposedly like 10,000 feet below us. So how can you even say that there's a magma core holding the globe together when you haven't even they have no clue. Yeah, they have no clue. And then there's other scientists that have said we've only discovered 7% of Earth's oceans. And then I'm like, so why would we even fathom the idea of going to the moon or space when we have so much land and stuff to discover here on this Earth before we can even?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah, dude, it's just so crazy. But like I want to talk about, okay, so you've seen the Hollow Earth Chronicles, obviously, and are you decently familiar with Admiral Byrd's diary, correct?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that, on his diary passages?
I think it's extremely fascinating. I think it completely aligns with what Hitler was talking about and what he believed. And I believe there is entities living within our earth, regardless of what shape it is. Within our earth is, the Bible talks about Sheol, underneath the crust of the earth. There are entities living there. And whether these entities are physical or spiritual or both, a combination of both, so they can manifest both spiritual and physical and take different forms, manifesting as some of these other creatures that are out there to fit the costume and belief system of whatever culture they're, or even specific person they're trying to influence. All this is about them planting seeds, and they're creating a paradigm of belief by channeling this information one seed at a time through all these different people, through all these different ways, and even through people that write sci-fi or whatever. They're dropping that information in. And so, yeah, I mean, Admiral Byrd and what they were doing with the Hollow Earth, I mean, and what Hitler believed, that he was talking to these giant Nordic entities that lived in the Hollow Earth, and they're blonde and blue-eyed, and that just fits with the belief system of what he was, into at that time. What these creatures actually physically look like, who knows? It sounds like they can wear all kinds of disguises, but
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think they're the poles are off limits for a reason. For what that reason is, who knows? I think there's an entrance possibly to inside the Earth. And if you think about, if the Earth was a globe, let's say, and you look at the Earth like a giant orange, and it's just the skin of the orange. We haven't even gone through the orange skin. The entire mass of the Earth is still there. So like I said, why aren't we investigating that? Why aren't we going deep into the Earth, and seeing what's there? We know there's cavities within the Earth that are large cavities. Now imagine a cavity that's literally 10,000 miles across. When you get a cavity that has that much open space, it creates its own atmosphere and its own light. So you could literally have an area within the Earth that would be a giant atmosphere within itself, within the Earth, and it could be tens of thousands of miles across, and we would have no clue.
No clue whatsoever. I agree with that 100%, because there's just so many different areas of the world that lead down to underground caverns that we're not allowed to go to, and most likely all interconnect with each other, even under oceans. Because I personally think that well, Hitler and the Nazis, they not really publicly documented, but if you dig deep enough, you could find accounts of them going to the Andes Mountains in Peru and exploring places like Machu Picchu. And they also had bases down in Antarctica, and Peru and Argentina and everything like that. South America, that's rather close to the Antarctic, and it's not that far of a stretch to maybe even think that you can access the Antarctic realm from underneath, going through the Andes Mountains and whatnot, because there's so many accounts of people getting lost in these underground caverns and never coming back up, or they come up with these crazy stories that they saw, like you just said, the blondes with giant 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 feet tall, blue hair, blonde eyes, or they come in contact with what we got here on the little background here, gray looking alien type deals.
Yeah.
But regardless, they all come back with whether they find these Aryans or whether they find the gray type deals, they all come back with the similar idea that they're reptilian in nature, with like a oily silk to their skin, whether it's the Nordics or whether it's the grays. And another thing I want to talk about, like you just said, these Aryans that Hitler was looking for, and the ones that Admiral Byrd came in contact with, we just talked about how Lucifer and all his deities and all his fallen angels, they just make themselves known in the way they want to, that will fit the domain of what's happening right there and now. And if he's looking for these blonde hair, blue eye beings, and he comes into contact with these fallen angels, or even Lucifer, as Admiral Byrd alludes to, that he had a meeting with the master of the underworld, and he was a tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed being. And like you just said, Lucifer was talked about in the Bible as being one of the most beautiful angels created. So who's to say that he's not just shape-shifting into something that would appease the eyes of us, make him look or make them look less intimidating, more intelligent, beneficial for the human race in a way. And then they have the Greys, which in my opinion are just more of a Nephilim-based offspring, like a really just demonic, they know things, because you can go in a channeling session with something like that and get some information. But I feel like the powers of the Vril, they were getting some fascinating, interesting information through these channeling sessions, and they were looking for the Grey or the Nordics, the Aryan race. So I just think that, and with all that being said, there's multiple accounts of these terrestrial beings, like I said, either being these gray looking alien type deals or the blonde hair, blue eyed looking type deals. And I think that's going to set the stage for the upcoming alien agenda. Are you familiar at all with the Transformers series, the films, like Shia LaBeouf, Michael Bay and whatnot?
Yeah, I've seen them.
Okay, so what?
Oh, go ahead. I've seen the movie. I'm not like really into them or anything, but I can't. I'm trying to even remember what else.
You don't have to be. It's literally just obvious stuff. Like, I think they're gonna roll it out similar to that. I think they're gonna give it a little tech spin when these beings make themselves known. I think you're gonna have two separate aliens, quote unquote, for this alien agenda, this grand deception that's going to come upon us, because it says in the Bible, even the elect will be deceived. And what better way to deceive them than presenting two different alien races and making the humans choose? Are you going to choose the gray demon looking Decepticon looking type deals, like Megatron and Starscream and all these beings from the movies that just look like they're from the bowels of hell? Or are you going to side with the Aryans, the smarter looking ones, the ones who are here to benefit humanity, not in reality, but essentially that's what they're going to portray it as, and they're going to play the Autobot type deal, the looker outs for the humans, the ones who are on their sides that are going to fight for them. And that's one real big way to deceive the elect. They could pull it out just like that.
Yeah, it's going to be something that somehow convinces everybody, which seems very odd at this point, because people expectations are so different. It's somehow going to fulfill the expectations of the Jews, the Christians, the Buddhists, the Islam, all these different groups, all in unison. And how will that happen? And so it's going to somehow fulfill or counterfeit the Messiah. So the Jews are going to think, oh, this is the Messiah. Some Christians are going to think it's Jesus returning in some way. The New Agers are going to think it's, alien or some ascended master or some, so it's all these things in one being in some way, shape or form, and so could that be some sort of technology, some sort of like link to a higher entity? Let's say that science just, announced, oh, we've been here at CERN or here at the Large Hadron Collider, whatever technology or quantum computers, we've somehow tapped into another dimension where we're interacting now with these higher entities that are either from the future or just aliens who have our best interest in mind. And because they're so much smarter, we're going to give them the reins. They're going to answer all our questions. They're going to courses and be the leaders, the great leaders we've always wanted. And they'll hook this thing up to a machine that will walk and talk like a human or whatever. And it's basically just a Ouija board, a walking Ouija board of demons and Satan talking through people. And people are thinking they're interacting with this higher, alien entities or some sort of technology that's been given to us by these higher entities, when it's nothing more than a Ouija board, a fancy Ouija board.
Absolutely. That's just like what the quantum D-Wave computers are that they got everywhere at all these major companies or whatever, like Google, Facebook, Amazon, they have their own quantum divisions, their own AI departments. And I think that these D-Wave computers, which are measured in qubits, by the way, just like Noah's Ark, just like the original fallen angel Nephilims, all measured in qubits, just on a different, one word has two different meanings, and that's how these people work, this duality aspect type deal. And there's no coincidence that these D-Wave quantum computers, they just pull answers out of thin air. They connect with the ether around us. They don't need to be plugged into the Ethernet cord like my computer is right now to get information from the internet, whatever the internet actually is. And they can just pull answers out of thin air, working at, what is it, like 2 degrees below or above absolute zero. That's cold.
Yeah.
And they claim that's colder than outer space. Just more of reinforcements on space and aliens and contacting parallel universes through quantum computers. And where do you stand on all that? These the quantum computers claiming they found hundreds of thousands of parallel universes and whatnot.
Yeah, I think preparation. If you look into people like Geordie Rose and the people that are part of his company D-Wave and their other company, what's the new company he started?
Kindred?
I forget the name of it. Kindred, yeah. With the snake biting its tail, of course, as their logo, just in your face. But the people that started that company of Kindred are all occultists. Like, you can look up their names and what they were doing before this. One of the gals is an ex-artist who basically, her main focus was drawing demons and angels and working with the parallels of evil being good and good being evil. And she'd been doing this since she was like a little kid. This is her specialty. And drawing witches and warlocks and all this creepy stuff. And then, by the way, I'm also got hired at Kindred to work with their quantum computers. So, but it's crazy when you dig deep into who these people are and what they're really into. Some of them are just along for the ride, but the ones who are the movers and the shakers and the ones actually moving the wheel behind the scenes, they're deep into the occult. They know exactly what they're into. Some are born into families where this is just generation after generation, and they feel this is their calling, this is what they have to do, and they're because that's their bloodline and their family name, and there's a lot of families out there that are rich and elite that are caught up in that. So it's for real.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's no coincidence that Geordie Rose, whatever his name is, there's no coincidence that he always references H.P. Lovecraft whenever he comes on TV. That should be a red flag for anyone who has looked into any of H.P. Lovecraft's work. And there's also no coincidence that they have a new movie coming out called Cthulhu, the inspired novel movie, whatever, by H.P. Lovecraft. And the really weird thing about Cthulhu is that's that weird demonic looking entity with the tentacles at its face, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So that brings me back to my paranormal experience, because shortly after having all that shit go down at that tunnel I was talking about up in the mountains where the Mohawk Indians used to live, and it was called Hoosick. It was called the Hoosick Mountain Range. They never actually lived there. They lived on the outskirts of that, because Hoosick in Mohawk translates to forbidden or forsaken. So they didn't even mess with that place. So shortly after I had all these experiences up there, I had a dream that I was actually up there in the tunnel, and the dude, it must have been like 25 feet tall, just kicked down the walls of this tunnel, had tentacles all over his face. And then I woke up and I was like, yo, this thing just made itself known to me. So I did mad research onto what that could have been. The only thing I could come to the conclusion was that Cthulhu type deal, because when I was in that tunnel, he has the tentacles, which are like serpent-like in nature, upon his face. And when I was in there, bro, at one point, I asked it a really controversial question. about Jesus and who he actually served. And the next thing I know, I just feel like it was like a tentacle or a snake was wrapping itself around my arm, but it was the coldest, chilliest, most like static feeling I've ever gotten in my life. And then within seconds, my whole body was just confounded within that restraint. And the person I was in there with, we went with 4 people. We went in 2 at a time because it's an active train line. So, we had 2 people outside with the walkie-talkie. We're inside just in case, we just, hop on the side, or they have these little huts every like 200 feet, and you just hop in there and watch the train go by. So we were looking out for each other in that way, but going in 2 at a time kind of left us separated, more vulnerable, because when we went in 4 at a time, nothing happened. We'd done that plenty of times, nothing would happen. But if we would go in 1 or 2 at a time, it would make itself known. But like I was saying, I'm confined. I have this pressure around me, which is just cold. It's static, and it's like layers. It's like a snake wrapped itself like a giant. What are those big snakes called? Not the anaconda. It was like one of them bitches. Yeah, it was like that shit wrapped itself around my body. I didn't know what to do, what to think.
Wow.
I just this chick behind me, she's already running. I'm like, oh God. I was like, I'm probably gonna die down here. And I just thought the name of Jesus so hard and so loud. I couldn't speak, but I thought it so hard and so loud. The restraint finally restrained itself. It was over with, and we got out of that tunnel so quick. And that the next morning, I ended up at a church on my knees praying to God, and it was in a Catholic church, which was rather weird, because you look into what Catholicism actually is. It's Luciferianism, and I did not feel comfortable inside that church. I'll tell you right now. I could hear and feel people walking around me, but there was no one in there. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and they just let the church open. They just open the doors. People can come in and pray as they want and whatever. And it felt like there was probably 20, 30 people around me, and you could hear the pews moving, like people were walking around. It was wild, and that brought me right out of there and into the actual path of God, the real path of light. So we were talking.
They don't like the name of Jesus.
Oh, dude, they don't. And that's really strange how that connects with like paranormal abductee stories, because a lot of these people, they'll be down on the table or restrained by these gray alien beings or these elongated skull type deals, and they'll be doing things to them that are just unholy, and they'll think or say the name Jesus Christ, and the whole experience will stop. I find that really odd. And I've heard other stories, other testimonies of people who are taking drugs like LSD or mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT, and they'll have a very demonic experience, but they'll say or think the name of Jesus Christ, like truly and full-heartedly. And it's not even that the experience will stop. They will get out of the trip completely, and they're just back to reality. And most of the time they're on their knees crying. It's intense, dude. It's really intense. And it's not like I want people to experience that to bring them to God, but that's what I had to go to verify that there is a definite good and a definite bad in this world. And it's taken a lot out of me in reality. Like I said, I'm only 24, but most days, dude, I feel like I'm 65. It's just crazy world we live in.
It allows us to sometimes go through these things so we can be, better witnesses to other people, that are also being deceived or going to be possibly deceived, so they don't have to go down that same path. So, that's kind of the same thing I went through, is going through some of these deceptions, witnessing this stuff firsthand, experiencing it firsthand, and then knowing, hey, this is legit, this is real, and it's not to be messed with, And so it's, I do a pod, it reminds me what you're talking about, going ghost hunting or whatever. I do a podcast with my brother called Digging for the Truth with Ark and Neo. And the last episode we talk about an experience we had in the mid 80s outside of our home in Oregon. It was less than a mile from our house. There was this big irrigation canal that had this tube that goes down and carries the water kind of underground. Well, people would go up there and party and drink or whatever. Well, one weekend we were driving around the tube there, and there's a dead cat with a rope around its neck. And so I got out and I was looking, and then there was another dead cat and it's rope around its neck, and it was all gutted out. And we went down there looking around, and literally somebody had set up an altar down inside here that had another cat duct taped to it upside down. And they had all these like notes ritually written out in black and red ink. They had these candles set up, all this stuff, and it had just been there from the night before. And we called the sheriff's office, and they came out and took all this stuff. And they said, "Oh yeah, we see this stuff. We found a goat head on the other end of, you know, the canal, and blah blah blah." You know, that this is just ongoing stuff. That there's Satanists doing this stuff, ritually killing animals. You know, and we're in a super small town. You know, only maybe 10,000 people, and so it's crazy. I mean, it's definitely out there, and this stuff is happening.
Absolutely. And you know, that you know, I'll share something that I've only shared probably twice on air. With this paranormal experience that I keep talking about, something kind of similar like that happened. We found well, first of all, the town that this place is in, like I said, North Adams in Massachusetts, I wouldn't doubt if there's less than 4,000 people in that town. It's in the sticks, it's in the mountains. There's probably like 10 like places to stop in that town, including like 3 gas stations. So there's not really too much there. And it's just, you know, houses in the woods. It's one of those types of towns. And like I said, we were in this tunnel, and we went there a couple times prior to this. This time that we went, the time that I got scratched and went back the next night and had that experience. Well, the first night we went, this like I said, we went multiple times, but this was like a weekend type deal. We went Saturday, then we went Sunday. So Saturday we go up. It's just I think it was just me, my brother, and one other person, and I got the video on another YouTube page. I'll like I said, I'm gonna break it down one of these days. But we literally found a doll with a porcelain head that my mother said that she, when we showed her the video, she said that's from before her time, and my mom's like 60 years old. So I found that rather interesting that we found a doll up there, like mint condition, looks like it's never been touched before, like in this train tunnel that is on the Hoosick Forbidden Forsaken mountain range. So it was just rather weird that we found that, and then I end up getting scratched. So I come back the next night kind of fired up, a little more emotional than I was the night before, and we make our way up to where this doll was before. And dude, all right, so this doll had a rope tied around where its head would have been. The head was missing. The porcelain head was missing, and it looked like the doll was in there for, I'd say, like 20 years, 30 years. It was completely dusted. It was torn up. It was missing like a hand, and that freaked me out because that's when all 4 of us went in. So I was like, you know what? Let's get out of here. Let's do it. Let's smoke a little blunt and, you know, chill out a little bit because I'm wigged out because this doll just aged 20 years in a day. So, and it's missing, and it was missing a head, and this is all documented on camera. So we like I said, we had 2 people waiting out, and me and this other chick, we went up in there, and we're walking up. Like I said, we got this like cold feeling. She got a weird feeling in her stomach, and then we get up to where the doll was, and that's where all that shit went down. Like I just said, with me getting frozen and the tentacle, whatever you want to call it, the ice chill getting wrapped around my body. But right before that happened, we're just, like I said, we're walking up to it, and then we hear like glass breaking. It was like, ksh, ksh. We were like, what was that? And then she pans the camera down to where we were standing, and the fucking doll head just manifested itself and exploded. And then all that other stuff went down. I'm getting chills right up my body right now talking about this, but it was just bizarre, dude. Like the doll like manifested itself, the head, and it just shattered, dude, all on camera. And that freaked her out. And it freaked the hell out of me, dude. And like I said, I went there maybe once after that, and it was probably pretty much went there to declare that I'd never fucking go there again. And that was when probably the 2nd or 3rd most paranormal stuff ever happened to me was there. That 4th or 5th time, the last time I went, there was only 3 of us there. I was inside at one point. My two buddies were on the outside. I saw three people. So I wigged out. I was like, hey, there's 3 of you guys. And then we heard this like loud growl come behind me. And then I look up and there's like this blue lightning bolt shooting out of the tunnel pretty much at them. They saw it. They ran into the tunnel. I don't know what came over me. I dropped my flashlight, my backpack, and I just started running back into the tunnel. I don't know why, because we were just scared. I think that's what it wanted us to do, keep us inside of the tunnel. Next thing I know, I look at my watch. It's 3:33 in the morning, no BS. I look up at on the left-hand side of the wall. On the wall, every 100 feet, they would mark a 1. And then if you're at 200 feet, it'd mark 2. And then 3 would be 300 feet. And then, 4 would be 400 feet. So you have a idea of where you are in the tunnel. It was 3:33 in the morning. We just saw a blue lightning come out of nowhere after a growl, and I look up at the mark on the wall next to me, and it was the 3rd mark. And then that's when I was sold. I was like, I'm out, never coming back here again. This shit's real. And the 2 guys I was with, bro, they were so ignorant to it all. They still don't believe in a higher power, whether it's a demonic realm or God himself putting acts on us to bring us closer to him. They still they believe everything for what it is. The only thing they really have doubts on are chemtrails. I'm like, dude, how can you have doubts that the sky is lined with crisscross clouds all of a sudden? And then you have the HAARP frequency clouds. Like I said, I'm only 24 years old, and I have vivid memories of being like 10, 11, 12 at summer camp with my friends and buddies, looking at the sky, looking at the clouds and being like, oh, dude, look, that's an elephant cloud. Or, oh, dude, that kind of looks like a dinosaur. Like, different shapes of clouds. And now it's all just X's and demonic sigils and circles and frequency patterns. And where do you stand on the whole chemtrail idea? You can see it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was talking to Richie about that the other day. Is like, we're old enough to remember, when I was a kid, I remember seeing planes fly in the sky, and you just see the trails disappear like they're supposed to. You'd see a really short little smoke trail, and it would disappear. There wouldn't be these big long lines everywhere through the sky ever. That never happened when we were kids. I mean, I used to look at the sky all the time, and I would have remembered all these lines in the sky and these crisscross patterns, and you never saw that back then. It was just regular, the smoke coming out of a plane and then just disappearing within, a second or two. Now you can see, like, I've literally seen trails that are going and then stop and then start again. I've seen that on more than one occasion. And so, in Eastern Oregon, we had it bad. And then the other thing is it comes and goes. So there's like seasonal times, like sometimes it's really bad and heavy trails everywhere. And then there'll be a few months where you don't even see anything. So you tell me, I mean, the planes are still flying. They're just not spraying it. I mean, so obviously they're picking and choosing where they're spraying. They're going into areas and spraying, and then moving to other areas, spraying. And, it seems to be a calculated thing. But I have the thing that makes me, that I wish there's more being done is the boots on the ground research. People actually going into airports, even if you got to go undercover or whatever, if people work in airports, getting pictures of people filling these tanks with this stuff, getting pictures of these nozzles, going behind the scenes and doing some undercover investigation and blowing the lid off this stuff, man. Doing it in NASA, doing it in the airports, doing it in all these places that we're trying to investigate and find out what's really going on here. Because we've got the ability, we've got the technology, and a lot of the stuff I believe can be proven. So why aren't we boots on the ground proving it? People talk about it, but we need more action. So I really appreciate when I see videos and I see people out there in action doing things and really going out there and actually taking it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%, But, at the same time, there's only so much that we could do, because it says in the Bible, one person's going to see it and one person's just not even going to entertain the thought of what you're talking about. And, my only thing about going out on the ground and I tell everyone about all this stuff, whether they like it or not. But if I can't find it in me sometimes to walk up to a random stranger and just point up and be like, do you remember that 15 years ago? Because for some reason, dude, I just full-heartedly feel they're just going to look at me and be like, absolutely, right on. And then, I don't even know where to go from there because I have I'm from the Northeast. Like,
Are you talking about the Mandela effect or something else?
I'm talking anything. Yeah, I'm talking about chemtrails, Mandela effect, or whatever
type.
Yeah, dude.
I hope it.
The thing is, well, real quick, you just said Mandela effect. Where do you stand on the whole Mandela effect type deal?
That one puzzles me a little bit more. I mean, I definitely agree with many of the things that are on there where I'm just like, yeah, that's how I remember it as well.
Cool.
But then other ones I don't remember. I remember them totally opposite. So the biggest problem for me is that it's not 100% agreed upon, that you wouldn't be able to go to an actual expert, one of the guys who actually wrote Berenstain Bears, and have them admit that it was Berenstein and not Berenstain, that you couldn't actually go to, the cat, somebody who worked on Star Wars and say, did he say, Luke, I am your father, or was it just, I am your father? Was C-3PO's leg silver, or was it always was it all gold? All these like little small things that seem so easily forgettable or easily misunderstood that I don't feel there's a concrete way to say this one is right and this one is wrong unless everybody agrees. And if not everybody's agreeing, then it's like, okay, is it I just don't trust my memory enough, and I already got a bad memory. I know it because I've many times have misremembered things and then saw a video of that thing that happened and like, oh yeah, that's not how I remembered. I guess that is how it happened, So I don't know. I guess I just don't have good enough memory to trust myself to say, absolutely, it was this. I remember, I just can't do that because I misremember things all the time.
100%. And that's why with the whole Mandela effect thing, even the name Mandela effect, I think that's 100% ridiculous because I honestly haven't come in contact with anyone who has the recollection of Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 80s, unless you're the first. Are you?
No, I do not remember him dying. I remember a total opposite, that it was a big thing that they freed him and that he was in prison for so long and that he actually finally got free. That's
absolutely. Absolutely. That's why ones like that and a couple other ones I kind of seem to like not really, I wouldn't say believe, or I just kind of put them to the side. Like I'll throw them at someone just at the chance of it might resonate with them. But I pretty much have like 15 or 20 that are, I deem them undeniable, like absolutely 100% undeniable. Like, have you, where do you think, what do you know about Statue of Liberty? Where was it located, if I asked you?
Where was it located? Was it Staten Island? Is that what it's called? I don't know. Right outside of New York, right? Right.
It's a lot of people remember Ellis Island. Does that ring a bell for you at all?
Ellis, I remember that being the place where people were dropped off as people going on their way to Ellis Island would pass the Statue of Liberty, because that's where the drop-off point where actually the people would come in at.
Oh,
so I remember that being associated to it, definitely, because people like right before Ellis Island, people would see the Statue of Liberty and freak out and be waving. They had all those videos of people on their way to Ellis Island, and that's what I remember it like, but I don't know.
Okay,
is the Statue of Liberty on its own little island?
It's on Liberty Island, but for me, I don't know. See, the thing with the Mandela effect, it's different for everyone, like you just said. So it's kind of hard to have conversations with everyone, like to have everyone resonate on one thing. It's strange. I remember it being on Ellis Island always, because I've gone to New York City and I've been to the Statue of Liberty, and I just remember it being on Ellis Island. And now it's on Liberty Island, which I think is I just don't remember that as being valid. I remember being on the ferry, going to one island, going to Ellis Island, checking out all the not the pilgrims, what were they called? The immigrants, all their
Yeah.
signatures, and then right around the corner on the same island was the Statue of Liberty. And
Wow.
now it's on Liberty Island, so it's just a little weird for me. And then
Yeah.
with the Statue of Liberty, there's more changes to it than just that, because now it's apparently on an 11-pointed star. And when I went there, it was on a square. That's hands down. Like hands down, it was on a square. Now it's apparently on a 11-pointed star, which blows my mind completely, because I've personally been there and it just doesn't connect with me that it's on an 11-pointed star. And
so
now,
looking down up on it on the
Yes.
platform. Okay.
Yes, like from an aerial view. But even if you're standing right next to it, it's the points come out. It's not like it's a big square with the points only visible from the air, like it's an aerial shot or something. It's actual points that it's on now, which I find strange. And another thing is, my father, the only reason we pretty much went to the Statue of Liberty because he went there in like 76 or 78 or something like that when he was in high school. He went to the torch in their field trip to the torch on the Statue of Liberty. But apparently in this reality, in this timeline, whatever you want to call it, no one has ever been to the Statue of Liberty's torch since 1916 because of this event on the screen right here by Albert A. called Black Tom. Have you heard anything about that?
No, but the way I remember is they could only go up. I remember there was some sort of reason they couldn't go up to the torch. You could only go up to the crown, is how I remember it, because of something. But I don't remember the Black Tom thing.
Yeah, see, I remember what you're saying as well, because there were what was it? They were doing like reconstruction and what do you even call it? Renovations and stuff like that on the torch all the time. But my father has been to the torch with his whole, I think, like 12th or 11th grade class back in the day, and he can't find any pictures of it now, which is incredible. And this thing called Black Tom, Operation Black Tom, there's an island which kind of popped up out of nowhere as well called Black Tom Island, which is where the United States had a lot of TNT and explosives and whatnot. And apparently 2 German spies back in World War I snuck into the United States, got into Black Tom Island, and let off all of the explosions, all of the dynamite, the TNT. It registered 5.4, I believe, on the Richter scale, and damaged the Statue of Liberty so bad that no one's been to the torch since 1916. And that's all that they did, like a History Channel special on it just a couple weeks ago, which I find really odd. Yeah.
No, that's fascinating. I mean, I know that they have access up to the torch, but it seems like what I remember is that it was, they cut it off from the public because it got too dangerous or something to that effect. And now you can only go up to the crown. But I've never been there myself. I've been to New York, but I never went out to the Statue of Liberty. And I think the other thing, I always try to think of all possibilities, and there's a few where I think I can kind of explain possibly why they're happening. Statue of Liberty, we see the Statue of Liberty a lot of times as people, not only the real Statue of Liberty, but you see lots of recreations of it. So you'll see a little miniature statue or a miniature of it. And probably most of those miniatures probably are on a little square base or something, maybe. Just to simplify the
nature of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The cheap novelty of selling this, statue to somebody. So we've seen the Statue of Liberty in a lot of different places rather than just the real Statue of Liberty and being there to see it overhead. So perhaps that's part of why that resonates in people's memory a little bit differently. The other one is there's a couple of them where like Luke, I am your father. That's a famous line that you say to people, Luke, I am your father. But if I just came up to you and just said, I am your father, you're just like, what? Who is your father? What are you talking about? You have to associate it to, oh, you're talking about Luke Skywalker, and Darth Vader. That's what you're talking about, that line. And when you're saying it in a descriptive way rather than watching the movie, and you're just using that one line, I think people have repeated that time and time and time again. Luke, I'm your father. Luke, I'm your father. But when you watch the movie, you're actually watching the movie. He doesn't have to describe it all. He just says, I am your father. No, I am your father. So
no, yeah,
there's
absolutely.
another one.
That's one of them that I don't really resonate 110% with. It's it's something that I've said throughout my entire childhood, because I was a Star Wars freak for a long time, and we get the toy artificial lightsabers, and reenact like certain parts of the movie, and I remember saying that over and over again. And then I remember one day, I don't know what year it was, I don't know how long ago it was, but my father, he pretty much came up to me and my friends and was like, "Hey, just so you guys know, that line was never said." And I was like, "What the and then we went and watched the movie later, and it was never said. So maybe it's either
he just didn't say, Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah,
He said,
yeah.
no, I am your father. That's what he said. So just one word difference, but still, I think, like I said, when it's repeated and we describe it, and you're, like you said, you're out there playing Star Wars, Luke, I am your father, then I think it gets remembered differently in our heads. The one that gets me is that really how I remember is the whole Ed McMahon with the big checks. I mean, I totally remember that guy delivering checks to people with the big check, and you have won $10 million or whatever, in Publishers Clearinghouse. And so I don't know how I misremember that, and so many other people do, but it is weird. Definitely. I definitely think it's weird, but I just don't see how some people would not, how it only resonate with some people and not others.
Absolutely.
If we're living in the same reality, unless other people lived in different realities and then switched just some people into this reality. I mean, it's a lot of I have nothing to back that up other than my own faulty memory, and other people's faulty memories and opinions. So it's really hard to jump into that full bandwagon on that one.
No, absolutely. But the really big thing about the whole Ed McMahon and Publishers Clearinghouse thing is, if you literally go on like the quick wiki page of America Family Publishers, which is apparently where Ed McMahon's worked for all of his years in that, on their wiki page, it gives a disclaimer that Ed McMahon is not to be confused with Publishers Clearinghouse, even though they are similar. They really had to come out and say that. And then just a couple weeks ago, Brian Staley did a good video on this. They came out, and now there's videos and commercials that have been on YouTube for like 5-10 plus years that are America Family Publishers commercials with Ed McMahon in them. And in one of them, he's literally shouting that, because someone called in and they were like, what about Publishers Clearinghouse? And Ed McMahon snapped. He said, "Don't ever mention that name on this program again. I've never worked there and never have, blah, blah, blah." He sounded like really like demonic in nature. It was just real strange. And I think that's just more validity to the fact that he never worked for America Family Publishers. It was always Publishers Clearinghouse.
Well, here's what's even weirder. He did a spoof video with some rapper as a rap where he literally says, "I used to bring big checks, around your house, but now, and literally says within the rap like that he used to show up people's doorstep with big checks." So it's like, why would you be saying that if you never did it? It's just weird.
The thing with America Family Publishers is that they never went door to door. They mailed the checks out. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Exactly. So why would he say he did that? I mean, unless he just knew that so many people misremembered him and were always coming up to him saying, "You're that guy that brings checks, right?" I don't know, man. It just seems like, and it just seems also, this is the other thing why I don't really resonate with a lot, is because a lot of these things are just meaningless things that are just like, it take us off focus of the things that do have bigger meaning, So, I mean, should we be focusing on Ed McMahon and Publishers Clearinghouse, or digging into, what the Bible says about the fallen angels and, all these other things that actually, I think, are more, I don't know,
No,
more
yeah.
tangible and more realistic to what we're dealing with and our actual obstacles that we need to face and explain to other people. So I don't know. Some of it can be a lot of busy body work and just rabbit trails to nowhere.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. But the other thing with the Mandela effect is there's a lot of changes within the Bible. I don't know if you've looked into any of those at all, but apparently I think it's Acts 5:30. I might be a little wrong. It's either 5:30 or 5:20. It goes on to say that Jesus was hung in a tree. Does that ring a bell with you at all?
I remember them calling, Calvary, the tree of Calvary, and him being hung on a tree. It may be one of the interpretations. I don't know. I mean, I remember something to that effect, the tree of Calvary or something like that, but I can't remember the exact verse. And I have heard the other one, about like the lion and the lamb and all these different things.
Oh yeah. You actually said something about the Lion and the Lamb in one of your songs I was jamming out to earlier, and I wanted I wanted to ask you about that. That clearly changed because now it's the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. It's rather strange.
It
the
does
characteristics
talk about the
between
lion and the lamb. It does talk about the lion and lamb throughout the Bible, but it just in that one verse where it says the lion will lie down with the wolf is the one where people remember, what? I thought it was a lamb. But there are other places in the Bible where it's talking about the Lamb of God and, the Lion of Judah. So it's not like it never talks about the lion and the lamb, because it does throughout the Bible. And I think that may be one of those, again, where people have made so many posters, so many, pamphlets where it's the Lion and the Lamb Ministries. I mean, it's over and over and over again. And so then when you see this one verse that says, what, the lion and the wolf? Well, there's all kinds of other verses that talk about lion and the lamb, but just that one verse is different. And I would bet you couldn't find any biblical scholar out there who would say it used to be lion and the lamb. Like somebody who actually teaches the Bible for a living and knows it inside and out. And, that's my problem with it. It's like, if it's really happening, then these people, everybody would remember it. And it's also, I think it's a dangerous game to say the word of God, it can be changed. That's a dangerous line to cross as well, because if we can't count on the word of God, that's, like I said, that's kind of like a dangerous line to go down. I mean, I know the Bible has there's different interpretations of the Bible that we cannot trust. Absolutely. But we have the strongest concordance. We can go back to the original Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic. So all these lies about saying the Bible's been misinterpreted so many times we don't even know what it says. No, it's been interpreted one time over. You can always go back to the original. So yeah, there's different versions of that. But if you speak Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic, you can go back and look at all those specific words and see how they're interpreted differently. And different words are interpreted with different meaning throughout different Bibles, and have been changed also throughout time. So, but the overall message of Christ and the overall, gospel message has remained the same.
Absolutely. And that's something I always point out to people when I do like a Mandela effect video with Bible changes. It's not the idea, the fact that the actual word of God is changing. It's because these people in power, they're working for deities that can easily cast spells or work magic. And who's to say that they're not just putting out one big spell and through a lot of energy and a lot of other people doing conjuring activities at that time, maybe that could make a shift or change something in text throughout the world. I'm just speculating. It is what it is. It's not like I know all this for a fact, but it's just like you said. You got to be careful when saying that the word of God is changed or can be changed or has changed. But like you said, if you just go all the way back to the original Hebrew, it's one word. That's all it is. It's one constant message. And if you can't see that, it's maybe it's not time for you to dip into all this yet. It's just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to always to speculate. It's great to investigate all these things. We got to, be thoroughly in our investigating. We shouldn't be, dismissive of anything, no matter how, crazy it sounds. I mean, we need to at least vet these things. I mean, I'm a little on guard because you wouldn't believe some of the messages I get from people, man. I mean, I get some really, really off the wall messages of people contacting me because only I need to know this, and this date, this is going to happen, and I guarantee you I've got the inside scoop that this is happening. And right now I've got one guy trying to convince me that Tom Cruise is the Antichrist, and another guy trying to convince me that Eminem is the Messiah. No lie, absolute truth. So there's all kinds of people with all kinds of ideas, and so we really got to be on guard. The Bible warns of it, that in this end times, there's going to be all kinds of different deceptions going on. So, the simplicity within Christ is just that, very simple and very basic. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself.
Exactly. And you don't need to use a Ouija board or do conjuring rituals or sacrifice a goat or anything to come in contact with God or Jesus Christ. You just got to look within yourself, and first of all, I lead every prayer asking for forgiveness for all the big sins, little sins, sins I don't even think about doing. It's you just gotta ask for mercy, and he'll answer, in my opinion. Yeah.
No, I mean, reach out to Christ, and he will reveal himself to you. I mean, that's just it. It's God is seeking us out, and people think we're searching God out, but God actually seeks us out. So, so if you're listening to this right now, you're here for a reason. If you're on the fence, if you're still searching, you're here right now, hearing these words right now for a reason. And that's so you can take it one step farther and maybe pick up a Bible, read the book of John, find out who Jesus was, find out what he said, and see if it resonates. Pray that he reveal himself in a way that makes sense to you. Exactly.
But all right, you got a little more time? Do you want to keep going, or do you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, no problem. One thing I was also going to bring up before I forget, I know we were talking about the Cthulhu thing earlier and the whole snake thing. That's a really fascinating thing because, H.P. Lovecraft actually channeled a lot of this information. He admits that he was tormented by demons and was a lot of the great old ones in Cthulhu were actually real gods. And there are actually groups out there today that actually believe this almost like a religion, the religion of Cthulhu. And they worship this entity, and these, he's got a book he wrote called The Shadow of over Innsmouth that they've been trying to remake for decades. And they just finally remade it. And I think it's going to be released here in the next year or two. And it looks really, really creepy, but it's all about hybridization of humans with creatures like sea creatures. And this whole town, this fishing village, becomes just inundated with these hybrid creatures of man, half fish, and half octopus, and half, every sea creature you can imagine mixed and mingled with mankind's DNA. So it's going to be interesting to see what that's all about. And and then the other thing is where it overlaps with the DMT testimonies. If you investigate the people that take DMT and ayahuasca, and especially when they're in the jungles and working with an actual shaman, almost every time they're having these interactions with serpents as well, where these serpents are swallowing them, or they're swallowing serpents, or they're wrapping around their bodies and choking them. And I've actually got done some podcasts and are digging for the truth with Ark and Neo, talking about DMT and ayahuasca. And then I have 30 minutes of just testimonies that I've collected of real people talking about their experience on ayahuasca or on DMT, where they talk just about these things, where they talk about, I was told I was a god. I was told that, in my previous life that, I was this great king and pharaoh. I was told that, that I must jump into the abyss and let the serpent swallow me. I felt like I was being possessed. There's about 30 minutes of testimony. So if you look up, Digging for the Truth with Ark and Neo DMT testimonies. You can listen to all these, and it's really fascinating to hear the overlaps. These aren't believers, but they're telling you exactly what they're seeing, which aligns with exactly what we're saying, that these demons, how they manifest to people. So it's
exactly. And how they all have that serpent-like aspect to them. That's not to be overseen. It's what deceived Eve in the garden originally. It was the snake. Exactly. But I'm gonna just put up a song real quick and take 2 or 3 minutes if that's cool.
Sure.
Yeah, let me just get something queued up real quick. Probably should have had that ready to go, but it's all good. Oh, actually, you know what? Unseen Zones just popped up, so I'm just gonna get that going. There we go. All right, let me get a screen share. All right, guys, this is Steve J and Mo and Ark from Destiny's Lab. We'll be back in just about 3 minutes or so. And let me just make sure, is this sharing? All right. Yeah, that is sharing. All right, cool. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. Steve J and Mo, Destiny Lab. Be back in about 3 minutes.
What lives in the unseen zones, not seen in between those without flesh or bone. Roam in the void, they avoid all detection. Interdimensional beings all connected. Angels and demons from spiritual realms engaged in a battle from heaven to hell. They dwell all around us and even inside some of those that invite what they call spirit guides. Enticed by Ouija boards, they seek guidance and think there's a secret to be enlightened. Little do they know what they just invited. A demonic presence has just resided. In the days of Noah, all kinds of hybrids infiltrated the earth, but most were silent, wiped out by the flood. All these tyrants, bloodlines polluted by these ancient giants. Some men of renown, heroes of old, have now returned, let the truth be told. They wear new disguises, Thoth and Isis are now aliens come to invite us and guide us. The fruit is ripened, it's so inviting, evolve to a God enlightened. And don't be frightened, but I must ask why their ideas seem aligned with Lucifer's lie. This song serves as a warning to anyone searching. Demonic minions are lurking and virtually everywhere, posing as anything, stalking their prey with original sin. This song serves as a warning to anyone searching. Demonic minions are lurking and virtually everywhere, posing as anything, stalking their prey with original sin. Is it coincidence that all these incidents represent all the same thing the serpent said? Look at Genesis chapter 3 verse 6. It depicts exactly the same conflict. Feel this trick inflicted by the sick and wicked, invented, presented like a light transcendent, but it's dark demented. It just pretended, depending on beliefs, what you just expected. See how a rose has thorns and thistles? They hide among the truth to avoid the signal. They muddy the water with disinformation, persuading so many without a foundation. Some people like to listen to Ike and Sitchin, Jordan Maxwell and Tessarian. It seems these people are on the same mission. Deny what's Christian, seek secret wisdom, tied to the lies in the movie zeitgeist. Lost and deny the existence of Christ. I defy you to find any truth to the logic. Go ahead, just rewind it and pause it. Study their sources, they're all Masonic. Elite Illuminati seem to be behind it. They know the public will buy any fraud that tries to deny the existence of God. This song serves as a warning to anyone searching. Demonic minions are lurking and virtually everywhere, posing as anything, stalking their prey with original sin. This song serves as a warning to anyone searching. Demonic minions are lurking and virtually everywhere, posing as anything, stalking their prey with original sin.
All right, and we are back. That song's hot, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just awesome that, you know, like people like you and ODD and I can't even think of other people right now, are just going completely against the public agenda of what their idea of music is. And it's just awesome that, especially you, with the all the stuff that you talk about in your music, it's like you're literally just going through the scriptures and just making it rhyme. It's absolutely awesome. Just want to give you a shout out for that.
No, I appreciate it. Appreciate it, man. I mean, that's what it's all about, is basically, you know, spreading the truth, and people are out there searching. So, you know, if we just get the word out, people want it. That's what they're wanting, is music with meaning and purpose. And once they hear it, they love it. So it's just crazy that the Christian hip hop industry is so sold out to not allowing anything like this. It's just like the big churches, you know, that won't talk about the fallen angels or any of these fringe Christian topics. They don't want to dig deep. They just want to, you know, keep everything simple, keep their listeners just satisfied. So they don't ask too many questions and don't get too scared of anything, I guess. So.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
It's crazy.
It was like when I was in not high school, middle school, K through 8, I went to a Catholic school, and they wouldn't allow us to read certain books in the Bible, such as Revelation. And that always I didn't like go against what they've, you know, said, but I always thought, you know, sitting in the back of my mind was like, why are we going to a school that's allegedly based in faith in Christ, and they're not even going to let us read parts of the Bible? I found that really interesting, you know? And then once I became aware and more awake to what's going on, and actually dipped into the Bible and gave it a read, you know, I'm like, wow, well, now I kind of see why they didn't want us to read Revelation, especially as a kid, because when you're a kid, I feel like you can easily put 2 and 2 together just using strictly common sense. And I don't think they wanted us to see what was prophesied as coming at the end of times. And especially like Revelations 9:11, an angel will come with the key and unlock the bottomless pit. And you know, reading that as a 12-year-old, you would have been like, you would have raised a hand and say, hey, I got a couple questions here, Teach. You wanna elaborate on that one? But I think they were just suppressing that and not letting us obviously reach our full potential via school. And that's how they get most of us fooled. They got everyone with their blinders on. And another thing I want to say about your music, like you said, it's you know, good for people who are searching for truth, first of all, but with the aspect of music and the way that your stuff just sounds so like it just rolls good. It's not like it's crappy beats or it's not like you can't rap or you're the audio's off. It's all good, clean sounding music. And I do it all the time. I'll just drop a couple of your songs in a Facebook on just a regular link, not saying it's conspiratorial or this, that, and the other thing. And random people just thumb it up. I'm like, oh, so people are just listening to this, and, you know, maybe it will plant a seed. And that's what I'm kind of hoping that, you know, stuff like this will do, whether it's people listening for the first time being like, whoa, let me hit that reverse button. What did Ark just say about the days of Noah? There's going to be Nephilim giants, and maybe that will spark them into looking into the Bible. Because for kids around my age, you know, a lot of them play a lot of video games and stuff like that, and stuff like God of War and shit like that is literally just a knockoff of the Bible. It's all these it's literally just one dude who's fighting giants and giant lizards and dragons and stuff like that. And so for someone who's like really used to that, I could show them, you know, using the Bible or just sending them literally the song Days of Noah. They could watch that and be like, dude, I just played a video game on that, and that could spark something in their brain. And then they'll start researching, and then you get the wheels turning. And once the wheel starts turning, it's kind of hard to hit the brakes.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's just it. That's one of the reasons I started Destiny Lab, is like, when I found out there was even a genre called Christian hip hop, I went out there and I started listening to all of it, and I couldn't find, I mean, I'd say 90% of it was just junk, just really cheesy, corny, just hokey rap, and then if you went underground enough to the people who weren't that popular, there was actually some really good, hip hop. So it's not that it wasn't out there. It's just that these record labels weren't picking those guys to showcase. And so for whatever reason, the Christian hip hop the industry kind of just plays it safe, and they want to have music that sounds, really safe, corny kind of music that sounds just like, today's day and age music, but they don't want to have it go too deep, or have any controversy or anything like that. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Because when I first came out, I was trying to get a Christian label to buy my music or sign me as an artist, for probably the first 6 or 7 years, until I really realized, oh my gosh, these guys are all part of the deception. When I actually got in touch with these people and asked them about what they believed, and like, oh, I believe in evolution, and I believe that we're, all evolving into gods ourselves. I mean, they literally believe this stuff, or that they're Masons. Some of my favorite Christian rap artists I found out are total Masons, and they admit to it. They don't even try to hide it, so it's like I said, it's externalized, all this stuff.
No, absolutely. And, I got a couple of friends who are, I wouldn't really call them rappers, but they spend their free time, making music, and none of it's really, in the name of God. It's all, all what the other rappers are doing on TV and the radio nowadays. But there's one of them that actually opened my eyes up to a lot of this stuff. And I'm just hoping that maybe I send him a lot of your stuff, and I'm hoping that, maybe he'll switch gears a little bit and because he showed me the alien deception. He showed me flat Earth, chemtrails, 9/11, JFK fake crew, this, that, and the other thing. And it's just, I just find it rather strange that how someone can introduce me to everything and then yet be so far behind the ball. You know what I'm saying? Because he's my buddy. I'm not trying to put a hit piece out on the kid, but he still listens to Joe Rogan and shit like that. And I'm just like, dude.
Hey, I listen to Joe Rogan.
Do you?
Oh yeah, it's like I listen to Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell and some of those guys, Sam Tripoli's. I think it's basically like being like an insider at the Bilderberg or something. It's like you got an inside ticket to what all these the elite are now planning. I mean, Joe Rogan's like the Oprah of young men. So you go in there, you basically got the heartbeat of the nation of what people are being told is cool, what they should be doing, what they should be into. And so I think it's a good way to I think you got to have a firm foundation, but I think it's a good way to, get some inside knowledge of what these people really believe and what they're spreading to the masses out there, so we can be prepared to have a counter, so we can actually explain, oh yeah, I heard that episode, this is what they actually meant, or this is what that actually means, or this is why that's wrong.
I understand that now. It's like you're sizing up the opponent, basically.
Exactly. I'm a spy. I'm an infiltrator, basically.
See, I understand that. I respect that, and I like that, because I do the same thing with even just like music that's out nowadays. Like, I'm not on like YouTube or live mixtapes looking up the latest music, but if I just happen to be somewhere where the radio's on and I hear a song that I haven't heard before and they say this, that, and the other thing, I'll nudge the person on my right, be like, they just actually said blah, 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 and blah. And they're like, whoa, yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying, but what I'm saying is like, he's like watching it for like informational standpoint, like, oh, sure, Joe Rogan's actually on the ball. I'm like, dude, Joe Rogan said that space was fake, you couldn't go to the moon, this, that, and the other thing about 5-10 years ago. And then when he got offered that, when the UFC went big, I think they sat him down and said, you're gonna not talk about this, and that, and that's pretty much it. The dude had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and Elon Musk, and Alex Jones. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of like a lot of these disinformations out there. Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, Michael Tassarian. There's a lot of researchers out there that present nuggets of truth. And so it makes people, oh, yeah, I know that's true, or that resonates. Yeah. And they investigate and like, yep, that's true. And then they just accept everything else that these people say, and they just start feeding you all this other nonsense and new age cockamamie and lead you down the wrong path. That's the thing. They're not leading you toward a solution. They're leading you on a carrot on a stick to nowhere, to try and DMT and lay in sleep deprivation tanks, and that's how they think you need to do to get saved. And it's just crazy, that he claims to be so open-minded, yet to this day he's had everybody but a real Christian on his channel. Every other belief system he'll have on there, but a real Christian creationist, a strong believer, backing up why he believes what we believe. They've had people on there say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, but they never get into their faith really. He needs to have somebody on there like Chris White or somebody who's a real strong believer, Michael Heiser or Justin Fall, somebody like that, or Destiny Lab. Having the opportunity to go on somewhere like Joe Rogan, I would love that, man, to talk about the fallen angels and the Nephilim. I would have so many things that would interest him that would fill in so many gaps of things that he doesn't understand about the aliens. He's searching for all these answers, yet he's cutting himself off and self-centering himself from the real truth, the real glue that, like I said earlier, holds all the pieces of these puzzle together to actually make any coherent sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what a lot of these quote unquote like truthers or whatever you want to call them, they need that little big slap in the face, something like that. And another thing that these guys try to do, like Maxwell and Rogan and the list goes on, they'll give you like 3, 4, 5 good seminaries of 100% information, and you're sold. You're like, wow, this is checked out 6 for 6. He's good to go. And then that 7th interview where it's like aliens are real and a meteor is going to come down and destroy the earth. And then it's like, oh, well, I can see that that's a lie. But the people who just checked him out 6 for 6, now he's 7 for 7. And now it's the foundation's going to crumble.
Exactly.
It's that's one way. That's one of their big ways of getting the disinformation campaigns ramped up and out there.
Yep, you're exactly right. I mean, that's what these ancient alien shows are all about, is spreading blatant disinformation. They know they are lying. I mean, some of these things where they're trying to explain that the aliens created us and they have all this information. Just look up Chris White's documentary, Ancient Aliens Debunked, and it's laughable. He just like completely blows that documentary or that show out of the water. And if you watch that, you will never watch Ancient Aliens with the same frame of lenses, because you see how much disinformation they spread.
Absolutely. And I used to watch Ancient Aliens, but the thing is, I never fucking understood it, because I would watch it every week to try to like understand a little bit more, but I just couldn't grasp what they were pitching. Every week I'd be like, all right, well, they kind of said this and that last week, and then they throw a complete curveball. I'm like, well, that kind of just disprove what you said last week, and now we're on to this topic, and they could never just wrap it all around one big thing. And they're using all these big space numbers and people coming from galaxies away, and just I just couldn't fathom any of that stuff. And the funny part was, like, eventually down the road, like the day someone dropped the flat earth bomb on me, it was like, hey, the earth might be flat, this, that, and the other thing. A lot of people whiplash that. They're like, oh, you're wrong. I've been taught this for years and years. I don't know what it was for me. I just looked at my buddy and I was like, wow, dude. I was like, I could I'll listen to you. That doesn't really go against what my intuition feels, I think. But it was really funny because
Yeah, and how many of us have been to space?
the funny part was, like, it was 3 of us in the room. It was me, my buddy, and then this other kid. The other kid got so pissed off that right when he said that the earth might be flat, he got up and literally slapped him in the face.
What?
Dude, I
Wow.
can't make this up. In my room, but I had to break up a fight before it escalated outside. I was like, yo, you got to leave here. Like, I don't know what your issue is. And
Wow, that's nutty.
absolutely crazy. And then me and this other kid, we went upstairs and he just kind of broke it down a little bit. This is like 2013, 2014. So there wasn't even like Eric Dubay or Flat Earth Clues. It was just like the whole Flat Earth Society deal, you know, the disc spinning upwards in space. And we kind of, you know, I kind of latched onto that for a little bit, maybe like a week or so. And just through like further research, and you know, I don't feel like I'm spinning 10,000 miles per hour. No, you know, I don't feel like that. I'm tilted on an axis. I haven't seen any instances in my reality that water can bend. So with all of that, I just put it all together and I just came to my own conclusion. And then, you know, doing some more research, finding some biblical truths and other texts that support the narrative that we're immovable in an enclosed system, I kind of just latch onto that idea a little bit more easier than others. And another reason why I think I latched on a little easier too is because in high school and in grade school, I probably averaged about a C- average in every single class. I was not the ideal student. I couldn't pay attention to that stuff for more than 2 minutes at a time. And I just think that I wasn't indoctrinated to the level that most of these people who go through, you know, K through 8 and then 9 through 12, and then they go to college for sometimes 8 to 12 years, depending on what kind of degree they're looking for. And, and there's no coincidence that you get a degree in high school and college, but if you go in the Freemasonry, the more knowledge you go, the higher degree you're at, you know? So it's all connected, all 100% connected.
Well, it's all about stroking the ego and just, you know, making people think they're educated. Now, you know, here's your certificate. Here's your tangible, you know, thing to hang on your wall, which is just a meaningless piece of paper, because some of the people that have the highest degrees are the most, you know, uneducated, dumbest people you'd ever meet when it comes to common sense knowledge and just regular everyday things, you know, or spiritual things. So, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. The kids are being brainwashed, and people believe what they're being told from the time they're being born. And unless you've investigated the stuff and yes, you've seen it for your own eyes, how are we to know? It's the same reason the news can't stand, you know, social media. You know, the fact that we can, you know, talk amongst ourselves and spread information without the news filtering all this information. You know, when have we ever had this opportunity to spread direct information to each other instantaneously? And even like the president tweeting, you know, they can't stand Trump's tweets, and as annoying and crazy as they are. But when else has a president had instant access to the people? You know, before this time, the president has always had to filter anything he wanted to say to the news media, who then picked and choose how they wanted to present and say these things. So, you know, with all these you know, evil things that are happening, there's also different opportunities happening where we can use these technologies to you know, against the enemy and spread information even better. So,
exactly,
it's about yielding the tool for righteousness instead of evil.
Right. Like, I got this laptop. I could easily use it as a scrying mirror and conjure up some demon ass thing, or I could create a YouTube page based in faith and start looking for the truths of life and seek the true word of God. You know, it's just like a chef's knife. I could cut potatoes and onions with it, or I could go down the street and just start killing people. It's all about the intent of the user, in my opinion, you know?
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, let's say the time does come, we pass, and I got to go in front of judgment, and God's like, why were you using a laptop for 15 years of your life? You know, then I'll be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been doing that. But I really don't feel like I shouldn't be doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think we need to be more. That's one of the reasons that I started Destiny Labs, because I just didn't feel enough people were really digging deep and presenting some of these deeper messages in a way that made sense, exposing the lies. It was all just happy-go-lucky praise and worship music, and that's fine and dandy. There's plenty of that. But what about the people that are searching? What about the people on the fence? What about the people that want answers, So that's where I think we as Christians need to back over the media, social platforms, movies, comedy, all these things that the Satan has taken over in Hollywood. He doesn't own that stuff. He's just hijacked it. Satan doesn't create anything. Going back to that, God creates all these things. God creates comedy. God created music. God created all these things that are awesome. And Satan has just hijacked these things and used the mind of man to manipulate them into being evil instead of being used for good. And we can use these things for the glory of God.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like he's leasing these products out, like Hollywood and the media, Fox News, CNN, whatever it could be. But like you said, you get enough of a Christian uprising, a Christian uproar, let people see the world for what it really is, and these people for who they really are and who they really worship. That can make a change. That could just spark a worldwide awakening. You've obviously heard of the 100th monkey effect, right?
Yeah. What is that? You tell the 100th monk. What is that one?
It's like,
I can't remember exactly what it says.
Right. So it's like you and me talk about something so often, and then we branch a couple other people in and a couple more. And then before you know, we have 5, 10, 20, 30 people all talking about the same thing. And through like a conscious spiritual type connection, more people are going to resonate with it when being shown it upon their first interaction with it. Like 5 years ago, if I said NASA fakery or flat earth or chemtrails to someone, they'd look at me like I had 7 heads and I was missing a couple of things. But now, obviously, it's not like it's not demonized anymore, but I can have more of a conversation with someone about like the Mandela effect or alien deception or something like that, rather than a couple years ago. So I think this 100th monkey effect might actually be a real theory, and more people are starting to be more what would you call it, not radiant, but more when you soak something up, more absorbent of this information rather than they were just a couple years ago. And time is kind of with us, but time is also against us, because at the same time that we're trying to wake all these people up, these people in power, they're working so hard, bro, on making sure that we never see the true light of God, keeping us in the dark, keeping us in the shadows, and keeping us ultimately away from God. And that's his goal, I think. I think Satan's goal is to have kind of a bartering with God at the end of times, because I personally, it sounds messed up maybe, I don't think there's more than 6%. That's complete maximum percent of the people on the face of the earth who are awake to what may be coming upon the earth in the next 10 years or so. I don't think there's not many truthers out there. I think there's a lot more people who are plugged into the matrix, you could call it, than there are truthers. And I think all the people that are plugged in that are going to fall for this deception, they're going to upload their consciousness, this, that, the other thing, I think he's going to use their souls as a bed and be like, hey, I just fooled 8 billion people into thinking that I'm the true God, or B, there is no God. Let me have this realm and all these people and, leave me alone. I think he's going to try something like that. But, obviously I can't think for God in his point of view. But if I were him, I would laugh at him so hard, and all the people that he thinks he deceived by never showing them the light. I think that he's going to just pull them out. Pull him out of.
Yeah, I mean, Satan definitely, he doesn't know how it's going to go down, and he still thinks he's going to win. He's still trying to figure out ways, to figure out how prophecy is going to unfold. He may understand the word of God and have access to the word of God, because the word was before mankind, and all the angels had access to the word and to prophecy, so they kind of knew the word of God, but they fully understand exactly how it was going to go down and the timings of these things? No, I don't think so. And Satan as well is not omnipresent, but again, Satan is trying to masquerade and become like God through technology. And that's what I think 5G is going to be all about, is this omnipresent reality. If Satan taps into this instantaneous communication system that's all over the globe, that every single phone and computer and even refrigerator is tapped into. Basically anything and everything that has an IP address is automatically hooked up to this framework of knowledge and instantaneous knowledge. That's basically Satan's counterfeit way of being omnipresent in all places at once. And so that way he can watch over as many things as possible. Because right now he has a limited amount of demons, he has he has one place and he can be at once, and where God can be in all places at once. God sees the parade from beginning to end, where Satan is like us, and he's still guessing as to how things are going to unfold and creating all kinds of different masquerades and deceptions to fool different people depending on different possibilities. He's got deception set up for if there is a pre-trib rapture, and he has deception set up for mid-trib rapture and deception set up for post-trib rapture. He's got all his bases covered because he doesn't know how it's going to go down.
Exactly. I think he's a little too smart for his own good, in my opinion.
We'll see. We'll see how it all goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope we don't see, but I have a strange feeling that, especially someone my age, 24, I might see a couple things before this, whatever you want to call it, is upon us. And actually, I got a question over here on my notes. What was I going to say? Okay. Oh no, I was just on it. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So where is it? Okay. So do you think that we are living in, near, or around the end times? And if not, how much more has to be done upon the earth and to its people before we know 100% the end times are upon us?
Yeah, I think we're definitely moving in the season of it. And so whether that's, mid-season or early season or late season, I don't know, but I think we're in the season of it. We can recognize the patterns, that are taking effect, and we can see that it's reaching like a tipping point, like an event horizon of there's not much farther you can take it. Once you get into basically normalizing pedophilia, bestiality, it's like, what else can you do from there? Where else can you take it? How much farther can you push the envelope? And it'll get to basically sacrificing children and babies. That's what we've seen throughout time in these elite cultures, and Babylonian and Aztec and all these different cultures who reach the pinnacle of what they believe their understanding is. They conjure demons, they start sacrificing babies, and they think themselves to be gods, so that's where we're heading. But we're using technology now to change the disguise a little bit. But once we get into doing that openly, they're already doing it behind the scenes, we know. But once they find out a way to doing this openly, aside from, of course, the millions of babies that are sacrificed through the ritual of abortion, every day. But yeah, it's happening, man. It's just a different mask on its face. We think we're so good, but yet they're sacrificing babies every single day, and our they want our taxpayers' dollars to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no coincidence that Planned Parenthood's headquarters literally looks like one of those Aztec Mayan looking pyramids, the megalith structure. It's wide on the side, and then it just closes in on itself till it's like a top pyramid. It's ridiculous. And wow. There's no such thing as a coincidence. If they're portraying something like that, you got to go back in history and see exactly what they're trying to tie it with. And then, like you said, even the Mayans, the Aztecs, they all did human sacrifice, child sacrifice, all in homage of the false gods. Whether they thought they were actual gods, that's on them. But we, from what I can tell, they were worshiping beings that were quote unquote kings of the inner earth. And I think that this whole grand deception has a lot to do with the hollow earth reality. And I'm done with calling it the hollow earth theory, because I'm just 100% convinced that there is Shambhala, Shangri-La, Atlantis type deal right beneath our feet, and we don't even know it because there's so many caverns. Just in the United States, you go out to what are those mountains out there? I can't even think right now. Not the Midwest mountains, not the Appalachian where I am.
Like the Sawtooth Mountains? Or
you can go up there and, oh my God, Jesus. Where did Richie go like last year? Moab. You go out Moab. There's there's paintings and murals all over the cave walls there. There's spirals. There's six-fingered, six-toed beings, all portrayed as giants. And I feel like you keep following those sigils, you might find an opening. Or just like Mount Graham. Mount Graham is alleged being one of the foremost holiest mountains in the world. And I think when they say holy, I don't think they mean holy in a sense of holy to God. I think it's holy as in a sense of as like a hole, like as a portal type deal, because the Vatican has shop right up on Mount Graham. Isn't that where their Lucifer telescope is?
Yeah, I know they have that Lucifer. I'm not sure where that Lucifer telescope is, but yeah, I know they have this telescope named Lucifer. And did you see that ritual they put on for that tunnel that they dug over in France or whatever?
Yeah, dude, that was bad. That was ridiculous and
overtly satanic. I mean, wow.
Right, and there's no coincidence that it's the entrance of that tunnel is literally 50 miles, 100 miles maybe from CERN. I think CERN's going to have a big deal into this whole end time scenario. Now, I don't think CERN is colliding particles to discover the Big Bang or discover the God particle, whatever they want to call it. It's just another hit against God and whatever. And I don't think that they have any correlation with the Mandela effect, as a lot of other people kind of put those two together. I think that CERN is strictly just opening doorways to the other side. They have a statue of Shiva erected in their lobby pretty much. And and like we were just talking about, the Gotthard Tunnel ritual that they did happened just a couple miles down the street from CERN. And it's not like the Gotthard Tunnel was the only ritual that's happening over there. CERN did their own little ritual called oh man, someone had it in the chat just a little while ago. I can't believe it. They had that 2-minute video. What was it called? It was pretty much like, wow, dude, I share this all the time, and I'm just getting like a big brain fart right now. Wow, am I really gonna have to go Google this real quick? This is ridiculous. This happened right there. Oh, Symmetry. Yeah, have you seen that little video they did at CERN called Symmetry?
No.
Can I bring that up real quick if you don't mind?
Yeah,
dude, this is you're gonna watch this, and I know you got eyes to see, buddy, and you're gonna be like, uh-oh, that's not good.
Interesting.
Here we go. Yeah, they have like the tree of life portrayed in there, all this crazy geometric numbers, and it shows them splitting reality, and it literally shows them doing the ancient dance of destruction to Shiva. Wow, there's actual like ancient god type portraying being inside of a circle made of salt. It's so occult. It's ridiculous. I think Richie covered this a couple years ago when it first surfaced. This is like 2016, it says. So let me just get this queued up real quick. And like all that they're doing with D-Wave, Kindred, CERN, even ITER, it's all just demonic conjuring, demonic rituals. It's all just blatant in your face. So think this is queued up. So yeah, give this a view. It's only like 2 minutes long, and it's all it needs to be is 2 minutes long because there's so much stuff in here. So give this a look.
Okay.
You want to give me your little opinion on that?
Yeah, no, I take that back. I have seen that. That came out a while back, right? That's not brand new.
That was like 2016, 2015, around there.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I saw that, like I almost forgot about that. I forgot the whole name of it and whatnot. But yeah, that completely seems the elite. There, right there is how the elite think. Right there, like the people that go to like operas and New York dinner theaters and stuff. They're just on this. The people that attend the Goddard ceremony, they're on this other level of like creepiness. They're like, to them, you can't experience just everyday, mundane dance. You've got to do a very like, evil looking, dark type stuff. I mean, that's what all these people are into. They're into the dark, evil kind of stuff, and they think only they can understand this because they understand the inner secrets of ritual and the demonic realm. So, but yeah, to me, it just screams of what's the word? Somebody who's just an egomaniac. People that are just like put it in your face. Like, yes, we're Luciferian. Yes, we're Satanists. Now all you little people deal with it. Here you go. And it's just sick, man. I think
absolutely
it's speaking the language that they speak with the symbolism, with the salt circle, with the, the demon Obama character on the outside, with all these things. It's speaking the language that speaks to those types. And we, as people who have the Holy Spirit within us, we recognize those deceptions. We see right through it. So you're not fooling anybody. We see through your mask, and and we're exposing these things. You will not win. Christ is the one that's already won the battle.
Absolutely. And the thing about that, the deity or whatever they had in there, I don't know about you, but I couldn't distinguish if that was a man or a female, just like Shiva. You go in, you look up, exactly. You look up Shiva, it's got breast and it's portrayed as a man. So you really can't even tell the difference between these things. And that's just another hit on this whole trans whatever agenda they got going on.
Yes. This androgyny thing is very, very important to them. That's how the ancient gods appeared in ancient times. They were all androgynous. The fallen angels dressed in androgynous clothes, both male, all the deities that were worshipped by these mystery schools and Babylonian sects and ancient mystery schools in Egypt and whatnot. They all were these androgynous beings, both male and female, and you couldn't tell the difference. And that's a mark to them of the angels, you know, that they're both male and female, or, you know, that's what they think God is like, and the angels as well, that they have no sexes. They're just these androgynous beings.
Right, absolutely. And it couldn't be further from the truth, in my opinion. And something I did notice in that video that I just picked up on now, because I've broken down that video 2 or 3 separate times, but just like everything that I watch and listen to, you know, every now and again, Ark, I'll just put on a interview that I've listened to like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'll come out with something new. You know, you always got to rewatch a couple things to get your mind going. And something I noticed in that I didn't notice before was how whoever that guy was, the lead scientist or whatever they portray him as at CERN, he closed his eyes, and then that Shiva type being closed his eyes or her eyes too, kind of alluding towards a linking of the consciousness between men on earth and the lowercase g gods. So just another way of portraying that first sin shall be the last.
No, it's a way of giving permission. You know, it's like closing your eyes. That's how the demonic realm works. Is like, all you got to do is let go. All you've got to do is give in. All you've got to do is jump into the abyss, close your eyes, become asleep, so they can then jump into you and awaken you. That's what they want. They want full possession. They want that open doorway. They want you, and they have to get your permission in some way. The demonic realm works through permission, and your permission that you're giving them is tapping into that Ouija board, doing that seance, you know, inviting these, you know, an alien in or whatever it may be. You open that doorway there, they will step in.
Absolutely. And it's no coincidence that it's alleged that CERN in Switzerland, the Large Hadron Collider, is in the area of the bottomless pit of the tomb of Apollyon, who is the only one of the only deities named in the Bible as being the Antichrist, as in Revelations 9:11. An angel will come down with a key to the bottomless pit, and the king of the bottomless pit will come out, hath his name Abaddon, or in Greek Apollyon, which is Apollo, like the Apollo missions, which is just more blasphemy.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's interesting. I think the Stanley Kubrick connection is one of the more interesting, things to study, is all those little hidden insights that he put in with The Shining, with the little kid's sweater that was obviously specially made. That's not something that was off the rack. That's something that somebody took special time and care to create exactly like that for a specific reason. Everything within the movie industry is done for specific reasons. There's nothing mistake. Even little tiny things in the backgrounds, the picture on the wall, the symbols on the wall, all those things are set up for specific reasons. They're speaking the language of to the elite, to the other people that are out there who read that, who know that language and read that, can decipher it.
Absolutely. That's just like, I know it's a kind of a different topic, but Back to the Future is literally just one giant 9/11 prediction right in your faces. They were at the Pinecrest Mall at 1:19 in the morning. Invert that's 9/11, and you take the logo of the 2 pine trees, you just flip them upside down, and it literally looks like the Twin Towers when they're falling. And there's so many more connections to 9/11 in that movie, like when in episode 2, when they, or whatever it was, the second one, where they're in the future and they're watching the TV on the projection screen, and they have Marty McFly's father upside down, and they just switched to like the TV was going in and out, like it was moving up on the screen, like everything was just fading out, and they had the Twin Towers there, and they went up. The fading out of the screen up. But if you look at it from the perspective of Marty McFly's dad, who was upside down on that back machine because he couldn't walk or something, they were falling down. You know what I'm saying? So it's just rather strange that all these little 9/11 hits are in movies throughout the last 20 years, actually 30 years, actually.
No,
there's so many movies. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just not just 9/11. There's all kinds of things that are pre-predictions of, just little inserts of things. We did a podcast talking about Trump being a time, is he a time traveler or something? Have you read the whole thing on Baron Trump, the adventures of Baron Trump being a time traveler? This book that was written back in the 1800s about a little kid named Baron Trump.
But I've heard of that though. Continue though. I'm sort of familiar, but I haven't read it. So yeah, keep going.
I'm trying to recollect all the details, but it's basically it has the exact same name as Baron Trump, and he has his friend Donald who gives him some sort of keys to get inside the inner Earth, where he uses some sort of time machine to travel throughout time. And then there's the connection as well that Trump's uncle, I believe it was, or his grandfather, somebody very close to him, was the one that went in to recover Tesla's documents when he died. And Tesla claims, in his later years that he had done some sort of experiments where he actually was able to see past, present, and future simultaneously and tapping into some sort of other dimension or time travel technology that he didn't want to let other people know about because he thought it would ruin the world. And so he kept it secret. Well, and so we speculated perhaps it was Trump's uncle or grandpa that got that information, and that's how Trump now is the multi-billionaire and president and so popular, because he's actually a time traveler and going back and forth and manipulating all these things to put himself in these positions of power. But kind of more tongue-in-cheek, but it's interesting to kind of look at all those things. And because my question is, when people bring things up like that, is do you think those are people that have gotten together behind the scenes and say, okay, man, that we faked the moon landing, right? So you got to put this Apollo thing in, and we're going to do it just like this because we're going to fool everybody, and we've got to speak the language to the
Yeah.
And how much of that is actually people talking and planning this and really thinking it out and making sure it's it is a secret thing that's man-made in origin, and how much of it is literally demonic influence of almost an unknown channeling being done through a person who is open through the demonic but doesn't even know how they're being used, and they're conjuring these things and they're manifesting these things into our reality because the demonic realm has plans of doing these things in the future. But the humans, there's no government manipulation, there's no humans behind the scenes doing it. It's all demonic, and that's more what I lean toward. I mean, not that all of it is that way, because there's obviously humans that do these things, but I think there's no way you could account for all those things being human, because there's just too many things that are just off the wall and unconnected, and the people aren't that smart, especially governments aren't that good at keeping secrets and doing those things. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of where I stand there.
And another strange thing that you said there with Trump's uncle what was his name? Bernard Trump? Is that what you?
Well, Baron Trump is his son's name.
Right.
It's Trump's son's name. But yeah, the uncle, I can't remember what his name was.
Right. Well, I mean, back to the whole Baron thing, and he had his friend Donald who gave him a key to go inside the earth, is what you just said? That's how I remember it. Yeah, it was something to that effect, that he gave him some sort of technology or book or something that allowed him to go inside the inner earth and get this time traveling machine. Interesting. It sounds awkwardly similar to what the Nazis were trying to accomplish with the Glocke type deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so weird. There's all these overlaps and interconnections that are telling the same storyline, like an integrated code that basically we're seeing all of these, manifestations of, but there's no real way to put them all together in any coherent way, because it's all being done, supernaturally behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, and just another allusion to the inner earth with getting information from beings, possibly, which leads me to another question that I had for you. I got do you think the beings inside the earth will play a part in the grand alien deception that I think is going to be coming upon the earth?
Yes, yes. You know, you talked earlier about the verse where it talks about the angel giving you the key to the abyss, and he'll be opening up this abyss. What is the abyss? That is the pit. That is below. You know, the abyss is described as only one thing, and that's below, either below the waters, below the earth, and it's somewhere underneath. And so the abyss is where these creatures are going to come out of a pit, it describes, and they will have the sting of a scorpion and, you know, all of these tormenting aspects. And this is, I believe, a real physical creature that's going to be manifesting itself. And that's a real situation that it's explaining there, not a parable or some sort of, you know, that's actual a real situation that these creatures are really going to come and torment mankind. And some people will wish they would die because the pain is going to be so extreme. And what these creatures are or how they'll manifest, what they'll claim they are or where they came from, it's hard to know. But you know, I could see something like some sort of porthole being opened up through our technology, and this being the key to the abyss, you know, and that basically unleashing this demonic realm. I think the demonic realm, there's different fallen angels that have different responsibilities or different statuses and specialties, basically, that they specialize in. And some of these demonic realm, these demons or fallen angels that are chained, have some great powers that these other ones that are, you know, on our earth right now do not have. So something special is going to be happening when these things are unleashed, the like of which we have not ever seen. And so I hope I'm gone before then.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to be, bro? I'm right there with you. But you know, it's also talked about in a couple different scriptures that you know, God has sent down not like an army, but like, you know, an arsenal of young men. You know, I'm not saying that I'm one of those young men, but it's kind of alluding to that, you know, all the men like you and Richie and Nicholson and Awakened Saint and the list goes on. RV, I think that they're gonna get you guys out of here sooner than later, and then just leave the younger generations to try to figure it out. And I think that's where a lot of the fall is going to take place with the younger generations. I don't think that people in your generation are going to get the opportunity or the option to make the choice for the mark of the beast. I think they're going to start doing this extermination of Christians, especially throughout the world, sooner than later.
Yeah, I can see Satan basically waiting for everybody who was born before the internet ever took place, waiting for them to die first, and before really unleashing and really going crazy with everything. Because I think people like myself that lived before the internet ever was and know the difference between living with and without this technology, it's like, you know, you can still remember, oh, we didn't have this, we didn't need this. This isn't, you know, absolutely necessary. Where the people that have never lived without that, the little kids that are being born today, it's just like, to them, to a lot of these kids, it's like, this is necessity. This is absolutely a must. You know, people are so dependent upon technology and upon, you know, even food. You know, nobody really goes hunting or fishing. And I mean, a few people do that still live out in the country, but a lot of people that live in the big cities just would have no clue what to do if they didn't have this dependency upon, you know, the infrastructure that's built around us. So if that infrastructure, and especially once, you know, say 20, 30 years from now, when all the people that grew up, you know, knowing how to do those kind of things on their own and living before a time when when we had to do those things on our own, when they're all gone, then it's going to be the remnant. But like I said, I think God is preparing a remnant, or will prepare a remnant that will continue the truth, and they'll have to go underground. And I've got a song called "The Remnant" actually on my next album that talks all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the same exact thing. And you know, it's kind of strange how, like, kids nowadays, they're like you said, they're all about the internet. They don't know life without the internet. But even when I was a kid, like when Facebook and MyFace or what MySpace, whatever it was, and all,
MySpace,
yeah, when all that first dropped off, and even just simply going on the internet to like AIM and email people, my parents were like F no, like you're not doing that. That's not like what like you should be doing. And and nowadays the script is 100% turned. I don't see that happening. I see 3-year-olds with iPads in their hands. 3-year-olds, dude. Like, come on.
It's become dependent. Once it becomes so integrated and people see that it's unstoppable, then it's like, and in a way, you think about what if you did take a kid and just completely remove them from technology? Would they be able to even have a job once they reach their 20s? You got to have a kid has to have a little bit of understanding of how technology works to even, work in society today or be a person that knows what's going on. So it's like we went back to earlier talking about using a tool for what it's, for good or evil. It's like fire. You can use it to burn somebody, or you can use it to keep yourself warm.
Yeah.
Lots of these things are about intent.
Right. Absolutely. That's what a lot of these, like you said, that's what pretty much everything is now, nowadays. But we are like we were talking about before, like we're slowly approaching these end times. And I think that a big key in these end times are going to be, the whole 5G grid and an introduction to cell rejuvenating technologies, men striving to live forever, essentially to be like gods. And I think that like the name of this this podcast here, I think it's just gonna go right back to the beginning. I think that the first sin is literally gonna be the exact same sin as the last sin on the face of the earth, because once that is proclaimed by enough of the population, I think that's when the heavens are going to open and 10,000 times 10,000 stars are going to fall down and it's going to be on, dude. And for obvious reasons, I don't want to be here for any of that, but there is just a little part of me that I feel like I kind of need to see that happen, not for validity purpose, but just to not even to point like at other people, be like, see, I was right, but just personally, like to experience like what that would be like. I
think we'll be able to see it, if we're living eternally, in heaven. I think God's going to give us access to watching it all go down, man. Because, we're here to live through it. He's going to want us to see the manifestation of all these prophecies unfolding, so we can declare His glory and worship Him and give glory and honor to Him, because that's what it's all about, is fulfillment of all these prophecies and scriptures actually coming true in the end, and winning the game in the end. That's how it's going to be the greatest. And so that's where it's like, even if they take us out, all of us people who are trying to spread the word, that's whatever. This life is a blink of an eye compared to eternity. I'm living for the eternal, not these few short snippets of years you have here on earth. So that's fine if they want to take me out, but and the music's recorded, so it continues on speaking to people even after I'm gone.
Absolutely. And I'll be your number one sharer of music if and when that time happens. But another thing that you were talking about, how life is literally like the blink of an eye. It's also said that a day with the Lord is 1,000 years on earth. So who even knows what time really is. But another thing that I wanted to ask you real quick is what are your thoughts or opinions on are you seeing time literally speeding up in your opinion? Because in my eyes, dude, I could go to work for 5 minutes and it's time to clock out. It's 2:30 already or 3 o'clock. And I'm like, bro, how'd that happen?
Yeah. No, I have seen that. I made that song. I have a song called Time, and I made that long before I ever heard of anything called the Mandela effect or anything like that. And it kind of talks about that, just time seems like it's speeding up, and it's something that everybody a lot of people agree upon, interdependent of what your other belief or religion or worldview might be. It seems like a lot of people agree that, man, something seems like time is changing. Like things are either speeding up or slowing down, or just something weird is happening with time. Like people have missing time experiences, all kinds of different things. So what is time? What is that? Is that something that can be stopped? We know that God is outside of time and space. So, when we go to heaven, then we'll be outside time and space as well. Is that what it is? It's escaping the entropy that we live in, basically, and going to a place where it's still, where it doesn't move, where nothing is decaying and everything remains exactly like it was, and I think that's where we're going to eventually be, is a place like that. We're going to have bodies like Christ was after his resurrection, and like Adam and Eve were before the fall.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could easily see that. And another thing with time is like we were just talking about, time's very interesting. Like outside of this space time and this reality, is it different? Do we perceive things different and whatnot? But what was that? Was it the Olaf Janssen Hollow Earth tale where he went inside the earth and he came out and it was a different time on the surface? Or is that ancient Chinese parable that they talked about, where one of their not leaders, but like a spiritual monk went inside the earth and he was in there for a while communing with beings, and they gave him a box. And they said, don't ever open this box or your demise will be met. And one day he opened the box, and all the time that he was inside the earth that went by on the surface caught up to them, and he died.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting parallels of some myth, and obviously based in some sort of reality and truth as well, because there's all these different cultures and belief systems through like Tibet, who talk about, this entrance into the hollow earth, Agartha, or
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La, yeah. So I think it definitely goes back to some sort of real event, or it may be a manifestation as well of this demonic realm, convincing these false religions and these false belief systems that they are the good guys, basically, because they do live within this. If they're in the abyss and in Sheol and trapped in the inner earth, but they're just trying to convince people, hey, we're the good guys. This is actually paradise where we live. And so that's, everybody's trying to make it down to Shangri-La because they think it's paradise, when really that's where hell's at. So perhaps again, it's just an inversion of the truth, and these demons are basically trying to manifest themselves as the good guys, when in reality they are trapped in the abyss.
Absolutely. And just like Buddhist tales, their god or their master being, whatever you want to call it, inside Agartha, inside Shangri-La, Shambhala, whatever they call it, is gonna, he's already king of the inner earth, but he's gonna come out into our realm and declare himself king of this realm. And they're looking forward to that. And it's no coincidence that the Nazis have many connections up to Tibet, to the monks, getting access to these caverns with no repercussion or no lashback. If you, me, anyone here in the chat wanted to get on a plane, go to Tibet and go look for these entrances, we would most likely get stopped. But I think the reason that they let the Nazis do their stuff in there is because that the Tibetan monks, they see themselves as the positive aspect of this whole spiritual world, but you can't have the yin without the yang. But they were all looking for this similar being, the Nazis and the Tibetan monks. So they let them enter with no repercussion at all, and because they're trying to resurrect their god, whether it was in the name of Shambhala and whatnot, or whether it was them looking for Nordics or Aryan races. There was all the same two different math equations, but the same answer was coming out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, before Hitler was exposed as to who they were and what the Nazis were actually doing, a lot of people thought these were the good guys. I mean, even in America, there were tons of guys who were pro-Nazi. The entire eugenics movement was part of Nazism and part of this Vril and Thule society belief that the inner earth man is who we are all going to evolve to. We're all going to be this Uberman, as they called it, the Superman, you know, that's what they believe. So that's what, you know, even people in America were teaching through the eugenics movement. So eugenics had campaigns set up at all these different local fairs and events where they would take measurements of people's skulls and, you know, and they wanted to align people, their kids up with other elite bloodlines so they could have, you know, basically through evolution, create the Uberman. And that's what it was all about. And it's still going on to this day. The person who created the word transhumanism was Julian Huxley. He's the same guy that invented one of the biggest leaders of the eugenics movement. So all these things are interconnected, and it's not a conspiracy. These are historical facts.
Yeah.
Nobody's, you know, just look into it. I don't know why these things aren't being taught in school, and all these pieces of the puzzle aren't put together so people know at least the origin of where the stuff comes from. I mean, people should know where things like yoga come from. It comes from Helena Blavatsky, who was who created Theosophy, who was a Luciferian, and she brought all the mystery school religions and beliefs under one umbrella, which she called Theosophy, and then she represented it and repackaged it. And then her followers like Annie Besant and others, you know, continued this belief system out through the early 1900s, and they pushed in yoga, which was never intended to be any type of exercise. So, I mean, even from that standpoint, even from a liberal standpoint, you could tell somebody, you know, you're being very disrespectful to the Hindu religion by using their religious practice as an exercise when this was sacred, something sacred to them that was never meant to be used as exercise. So how dare you, do this? Or what do they call it when you use someone else's you culturally appropriate? You know, you culturally appropriated these Hindus and used their religion as an exercise. How dare you? That's evil. But really, that's true.
What's even more evil is you look at the Hindu religion. It's based upon three main gods: the god of creation, the god of what would you even call it? Like just keeping the peace. Well, yeah, there's a god of destruction. Then there's that god in the middle. There's what is it? Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Vishnu, I always forget. It's like the god of of preserving stuff. Yeah. And you know what you could be doing with all these yoga. You could actually be channeling some of these lowercase g gods, such as Shiva. Like you could be secretly doing a part, just a stretch, but you're actually frozen. If you looked at the Dance of Destruction, you could actually be doing one of those actual movements, but just, you know what I'm saying? You could be channeling something much darker than what you're actually doing.
Yeah. I mean, and it goes back to intent. I don't believe Satan owns certain poses. I can do whatever pose I want, and Satan's not going to, do anything to me because that's not my intent. So it's not about these poses necessarily, but it's about Satan finding a way to draw you deeper. Poses, and you're calling it yoga. I guarantee these people teaching it, as a matter of fact, a big thing within the whole yoga industry that people that call themselves certain yoga schools actually had to have their entire license taken away because they weren't teaching it in the right way. And so they crack down on people that don't teach it in the right way. And you have to teach these spiritual aspects of it sometimes, and I know people try to Christianize it and whatnot, but yoga means to yoke yourself with. So you know what a yoke is, like an ox that has, you're yoking yourself on a yoke. That's what you're doing. You're yoking yourself with the demonic realm. You're in union with them. And that's what yoga is all about, especially Kundalini yoga, which is about the serpent energy. You know, there they just get right out in your face and don't even try to beat around the bush about it, but they call it the serpent energy that crawls up your spine from the base of your spine to your head, and people start jerking around and moving all around like they're serpentine, and it's overtly demonic. So to not say this stuff is demonic is basically just, you know, being blind, willingly ignorant.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I couldn't agree more with all of that. But I think we've been running 3 hours. I think we're gonna start to wind this one down. That was good for coming. Yeah, thanks for being on. This was one of the better podcasts that I've done in a long time. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Everything's just been 100%. We haven't had any malfunction. So, you know, knock on some wood for that, because they I don't know, they just love targeting, you know, people like me and Richie and whatnot. And I really think they target the shit out of me because I'm 24 years old exposing a demonic agenda that's been going on for the greater part of 5,000 to 10,000 years. And they don't, they're not really keen on having the younger kids awake. They could have as many 50, 60, 50, 45-year-old people awake as we want. But like you said, they're trying to eliminate everyone who was here prior the internet. And after that, it just leaves like what, 30-year-olds and under, if that, you know? So they really don't want someone like me talking about stuff like this, you know? And I don't know how much you've dipped into like targeted individualism, but that stuff's a lot more real than I think people give it credit for. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I, you know, I think a lot of that can be done with technology but I think most of the time it's demonic in origin or a combination of both, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's for sure. They target people that are spreading the truth, and especially the demonic realm is constantly doesn't want that stuff exposed. But when you have the Holy Spirit as protection, they also know they have no power or authority over you. So
it's just scare tactics. That's all they're doing to people like me, because the other night I did about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I did like a 7-hour stream with Jen, the Truth Seeker 69. We were literally exposing nothing but like the child agenda and how they're trying to get to all the kids. You know, some stuff that's really touchy with even people in the conspiracy realm. So, and you know, when you hit on something like that, I think you're doing justice, because in the Bible it literally says to expose these things, people. It doesn't say it says don't partake in any of this stuff, but expose it. So you gotta absolutely. And you know, sometimes there comes a little cost with that, but like you just said, as long as you have your faith in God and you pray for the full protection of the Holy Spirit, they're nothing but scare tactics at this point. And the other night, like I said, I did that stream, and I'm literally on the cusp of going to sleep. I was tired as hell, you know, no reason for me to even like be alert or anything after this, but I'm on the cusp of going to sleep, and I would have bet money that there was a lightning bolt being struck down in my room. Like there was a flash of light that big, and it didn't make a sound, obviously, but it was just alarming. Opened my eyes, and I was like, there's nothing in here but darkness. And it was, you know, I said a couple prayers, and you know, the feeling went away. But yeah, dude, I get the ringing in the ears all the time, and it's been going on a lot more often now that they have these 5G towers up everywhere. I can't go, Ark. I literally can't go 0.3 miles. I've documented this with my friends. You can't go 0.3 miles in this region of Massachusetts without seeing a 5G cell tower. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Well, I know, you know, I used to work in the cellular wireless industry for about 15 years. I was worked in the wireless industry, and I know 5G, they have to put in like 3 times as many towers as 3G and 4G, because it doesn't travel nearly as far. And so they have to put in way more towers, and that's why it's going to be just everywhere. You're going to see these things. So it is creepy, you know, what this is going to do, and the unknowns of affecting, you know, all of us, you know. unfortunately, sometimes it's going to be too late. We're going to have to wait and actually experience these things and go through it before they actually admit, oh yeah, this stuff is bad for our environment and our health, and is actually giving people cancer and killing people. And so
Absolutely.
that's to be expected. I saw some people asking about the yoga and New Age a little bit. And if you want to know exactly what yoga and Hinduism was all about, I would urge people to look up the documentary called Gods of the New Age. And if you watch that, I'll explain exactly what yoga is all about. I put a link in the chat there.
Oh, that was the link you shared? Okay, I'll put that up instead of this. Is that this one right here? Sorry.
If you want to know what Hinduism is all about, yeah, that one. Yep.
Okay.
And so that talks about, it tells about, people always hear, that was karma, and they use karma as a positive thing. Well, if you go over to in India, you'll see little kids starving in the streets. And if you try to help those kids, they'll say, no, you're not supposed to help them because they're going through their karmic cycle. They're supposed to suffer because in a past life they did something bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, starving little kids on the street. Like, they're paying for their past life sins. So you need to let them suffer. And so India is one of the most ugliest places of when it comes to rich and poor, and how they basically completely disregard these children and poor people in the streets because of their belief system of Hinduism and this multi-life belief system, and that they're just paying their cosmic karmic debt. And so if you think being enlightened is to become like a yogi who basically hasn't taken a bath all his life, is covered with cow dung from head to toe, literally buries their heads in the sand, smokes cow dung all day long, don't even smoke weed, they smoke cow dung. I mean, they literally embrace doing the most grotesque, vulgar things you can imagine on purpose, because their whole thing is to remove desire and so by doing that, the grotesque. And if that's what you call enlightened, no.
Yo, that's disgusting. Yeah, fuck that. Like, I'd rather smoke a joint and read some of the Bible passages like I do all the time on the air. So I'll take what I got, and they could take that, and good luck.
And if
That's all I can say.
Al Moxis in the chat would ever like to have a debate on this, I'd love to take him on.
Yeah, shoot him an email. I'm talking to Zal, because I think you're easily to get a hold of. Yeah, Destiny Lab's a real dude, people. He responded in less than 2 hours of me hitting him up. So this guy, legit.
Yeah, hit me up, Zal, destinylab@gmail.com. We can do a public debate on yoga, the history of yoga and the history of Hinduism, and we can talk about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a good listen for me, because I'm not really too familiar with all of that, other than just the little bit that I've dipped into. When I first started getting into all this truth stuff, I kind of looked at it as I viewed sports when I was a kid. I was never really good at one sport, but I was pretty good at them all. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of just dipped into everything here and there. But as of recently, I've kind of just been taking topics on head on and just diving into them and coming out and, going into another one full blown, instead of just, beating around the edges with some stuff. So that's something that that's on the list. So that'd be pretty cool. And I'm definitely going to check out the link you threw there in the chat. So definitely, I try to learn something new every day, whether it's rereading the Bible and looking at passages that stick out a little more now, or just going on a leap of whatever and trying out a new channel, looking at their videos and forming something out of it. And, I just try to learn, even if it's at work, a new way to chop an onion or a quicker way to make the eggs or whatever it could be. And it's what we all should be doing, whether,
Exactly.
whether it's in the conspiracy realm or whether it's, like I said, you could even just be playing a game or something. Like I play a lot of golf now, and because obviously I'm not going to go join the NFL. I'm not going to go join the Major League Baseball, or obviously I wouldn't even join the PGA actually, because they share so much just subliminal stuff. And if you look into that solar simulator stuff I was talking about, and then you'll see how over the past 10 years or so, every single like sports show, or if they have like an outdoor event, they'll just do like a quick like up to the sun, and it's literally a 6-pointed object of a white light in the sky all of a sudden. And there's patents that go back to 1904 on that. Yeah. And it's golf is always doing that. They'll have the leaderboard up, and in the background you'll see the hexagonal sun. And I'm like, oh, so I'm definitely not going to put my time into becoming a professional golfer, but I'm not going to stop playing golf, because that's one of the games I think is not too bad to even play, because obviously you are hitting the dirt with the ground and the ball or whatever, but it's a rule where I play. At least you got to repair your divot. You got to put it back in the ground, put some seed under it, and grow back. So that's why I've been playing that, my whole life pretty much. But the last league, it's weird. Ever since I've been going deeper into truth, like I've been playing more and more golf. I don't know what the connection is with that, but it's benefiting in both ways. So I'm not gonna take anything from it, but it is what it is.
It's a thinking man's game. You get a lot of thoughts to think, especially if you walk, get a lot of time to think.
Oh man, I love doing that. Yeah. Oh man, that's my issue. I'll think too much. I'll get to like the 15th hole, and I'm breaking down all the chemtrails in the sky, and I'm like, oh dude, there goes the rest of my round. Yeah,
that's good, man. Whatever works for you and brings you closer to the truth. That's good.
Absolutely. And it's like we said before, guys, it's all about intent. We could be using these scrying mirrors that we get presented with every day with the cell phone, the laptop, the TV for conjuring stuff, or just watching pre-programmed stuff to get us subliminally even more indoctrinated into the matrix, or we could be doing what we're doing right now. So take it for what it is, and I think we're just going to end it up on this now. So yeah, thanks for coming, Art. Cool. It's been a great time.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, definitely love to have you back on sometime soon. If you, we could even do like a little round table, because I'm good friends with Brian. A Wink and Saint. Sure. I saw him in the chat earlier saying he wanted to have me on, so we could get something going. And I know you're in touch with Richie, so I know he doesn't like to be bothered with new people sometimes, but I don't know, it'd be cool just to have a big old fellowship and get a bunch of thoughts going around the table. It'd be awesome.
For sure, man. I'm open anytime, so just let me know if you want to do a show with a bunch of people or whatever. I'm down.
Absolutely, sounds good. And let me just I'm just gonna get your page and just plug it in the chat real quick, and I'll put on actually that Hollow Earth song, because that's I've been listening to that nonstop the past couple of days, just because as of late, that's just been the topic I've been on, dude, just dipping back into the Hollow Earth, because I've been following Fall and his work for years, but I just haven't really put it all together at the extent that I am now. So that's pretty much where I'll be for the next couple of weeks, is Hollow Earth and Agartha and all that stuff. But definitely gonna do some more research into that yoga stuff, because I don't practice yoga, but a lot of people have told me to, and I'm like, I don't think so, but
well, yeah, and it's a fine line. Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing all the stretches, all those things. I mean, if you're yoga, call it a stretch or something else. I mean, don't associate to yoga. Don't yoke yourself with the enemy. I mean, there's lots of other things you could do to keep in shape and that don't have to call themselves something that's a demonically originated, practice. So, and just to let you know, if anybody does want to buy my music, you go to destinylab.com. Right now, you can get 10% off everything there if you use the code DEST10. And I'll put that in the chat as well. So, but we have 3 albums out right now. If you buy all 3 albums, you can get 3 albums for $25, and then you get 10% off that if you use the code. There's 54 songs on those 3 albums. So we jam-packed the CDs full of music. There's 17, 18 songs on each CD. So you definitely get your money's worth as far as what you get, how many songs you get. So when you want to support, appreciate the help. And then we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Destiny Lab. If you join that, you can actually get behind the scenes access, and then you get to see videos before they go out publicly. And you can actually pre-order our new album before it comes out publicly as well. So that is at patreon.com/Destiny Lab. So thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on. And anybody else that wants to have me on as a guest sometime, hit me up at destinylab@gmail.com and we can talk.
Absolutely. And if people don't like your music, I think they just got their head up there, you know what. So
No, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. But all right, I'm gonna throw this song on. This is Hollow Earth, and this is Steve JMO and Destiny Lab, and we're gonna get on out of here, guys. God bless you all, and thanks for coming.
God bless. Peace.
Adolf Hitler, Tibetan monks and Icelanders had in common, they believe that the earth is hollow. Join us as we begin our journey to discover the truth about the hollow.
Deep within the depths of the center of Earth, and as a world that's unknown to the people on the surface, where we explore the nooks and crannies of the crust, there could be a whole civilization underneath us, a race indigenous to darkness. They make the homes inside of holes in the cracks and the crevices. We check the holes for an entrance. Ask Admiral Byrd and the Nazis, they're my witness. He's just a man's tell of Shangri-La and Shabala and Agartha, but they're not of God. These mythic cities are utopian dreams of secret esoteric occult-like societies. They study Crowley and Blavatsky. They seek possessed by these spirits from hell like Alice Bailey. They seek the fruit of the serpent, and they will reap what they sow. They satanic servants. They preach original delusion. It is the seed that has sprouted the lie of evolution. Social techniques that are pagan beliefs unleash like hungry wolves that are disguised as sheep. They masquerade as these angels of light and brainwash all the masses without even a fight. It's deeply creepy and incredible. Just take a trip to the center of Earth where it's unbearable.
The idea that this inner realm is the source of paradise.
This is the paradise you dreamed about, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth with no way out. The holy scriptures are explicit and descriptive. The lake of fire is not a place you'd like to visit. The hollow earth will not offer you enlightenment, nor the crystals or the spirit guides you're sided with. Their home's the core of the earth, their environment is one of torment and darkness and violence. The only fountains are the ones filled with flames. The only faces are the ones filled with pain. Our population subterranean, from every tribe, from every time, from every tongue, from every nation. Accumulation of the sins from every human. This land of lava is an everlasting prison. So tell me now, is this vision one of paradise or one of hell that's in line with the Antichrist?
There are those who firmly believe that the hollow earth is actually inhabited by aliens waiting to do us great harm.
How did this hammer get in?